first date with a woman, then you should stay home. Like, if you're incapable of doing that, you need to stay home. You should have rescheduled the date. And then he starts dumping all of his professional baggage on me, talking about work. And I'm like, this is just not okay. I don't know you. I'm not your girlfriend.
Well,
eventually, I end the conversation. The next day, I get a message unprompted from him that just says, I got fired. I did not respond. At the end of the day, I had gone on Instagram to make sure I had unfollowed him, and he blocked me, so.
Okay, all right. Well, that took a turn that I was not expecting. I was not correct about that. He was just being a dickhead. He wanted to secure the bag, but without putting in much effort. I've had similar dates. The guy barely speaks the whole time and then asks me out on a second date. Like, why do you want to put us through that again? Like, I firmly believe this, okay? If he's not putting in an effort to get to know you, he doesn't actually like you. But he's also willing to go home with you.
What a douche.
Just because he asks you out on a second date does not mean that he likes you. It means that maybe you didn't give it up on the first date. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be blunt, but
Want an online business but don't want to put yourself out there? If so, this might be for you. It's often not time, skill, or even money holding people back from earning online. It's fear. Fear of being judged, insulted, or even laughed at for doing something new. I'm Charlotte Mickelson, and we show everyday people how they can earn extra income with a faceless business, unlike anything you've probably seen before. No cameras, no audience building, no being an influencer. No one in your life even has to know what you're doing, unless you want them to. Here's the thing. Starting a typical online business is hard. It can be expensive, time-consuming, and requires skills and experience most people don't have, including a very thick skin. Which is why we teach people how to tap into Amazon, one of the most trusted brands in the world, with over 300 million customers. But unlike what so many people do already, we show you how to use Amazon's other company, Audible, to crack into a booming multi-billion-dollar industry. With this approach,
this is just many years of dating app experience.
One time when I was 17, I went out with this guy. I picked him up because he couldn't drive for some reason. Not a big deal, whatever. And then about 3 minutes into the date, we didn't even leave the neighborhood. A car pulls in front of me and stopped. It was his buddy. They were working together and they were going to rob me and assault me.
Stop!
Unfortunately for them, they did not know that I was insane. He told me to do what he said and I wouldn't get hurt and to open the door for his buddy. Instead, I took off, may or may not have ran over his buddy's foot, pulled out a can of pink glittery pepper spray, sprayed him in the face in my car.
Oh, girl!
All while screaming, I'm gonna kill him and then I'm gonna come back and kill his buddy. And then he had the audacity to call me crazy. Me! I basically told him I was going to crash the car and kill us both, and then he finally asked very politely if I would let him out of the car, and I obliged.
Wow, girly, I want to be you when I grow up. Is it at that point where we need to be bringing pepper spray on dates? Is that where we're at right now? Because I feel like it saved her in this situation. Unfortunately for them, they did not know I was insane. You put up a fight, girl. I love to see it. This is the definition of fuck around and find out. Adds glittery pepper spray to basket. Just to like add a little sprinkle, you know, to a situation, because nobody wants to use glittery pepper spray. But at least when there's glitter, it's pretty. It does exist. Champagne gold glitter pepper spray keychain for women. It's so pretty. This pepper spray is yassified. Something about it, you know, like I never thought about getting pepper spray until now, but I might, just because it exists with glitter inside it.
Does it come in black?
Now, my one extroverted moment a year led me here because when I was in the bank and I saw the cute bank teller, I was like, well, I should just ask him out, and so I did. I suggested we go a little ways out of town so that we weren't the center of the town gossip. And so my date, we'll call him John, agrees, and we go on this date. Of course, I'm extremely anxious due to the social anxiety, but as I'm finally starting to get over the nerves and settle into the fact that this is actually happening, I'm starting to feel okay, and it takes a turn. We had ordered our drinks and I was about to ask him what he was going to order to eat, and I go to set my menu down and I spill his beer all over his lap. I'm embarrassed and extremely apologetic. He's soaking wet and it's a catastrophe. He gets all cleaned up and I'm so flustered that I can't even carry on a conversation, so I just excuse myself and I'm like, I'm gonna run to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, I text my friend, she gives me a virtual little text pep talk. Just because it started bad doesn't mean it has to end bad, right? As I walk up to him, he's on the phone. I overhear him saying, this is the worst date ever. She's so boring, she has zero personality. I wouldn't even hook up with her. I mean, yeah, she's pretty-ish, but she's just extremely awkward. I swallow my pride and I take a seat and I let the abnormal day go on as normal as it possibly can. Now, I know the date's over, but he's like so what are you gonna get to eat? I'm like, a brownie, because I'm not gonna leave here without dessert.
Period.
Because after this, I deserve it.
Yes,
And
queen.
he gives me the weirdest look, and sure enough, right on cue, his phone rings. He's like, hello? Oh my gosh. What? What? I gotta take this, and he steps out.
Acting.
And so I wave over the waitress for the check. And as I do that, I see my friend's coworker walk in, and he is so attractive. I met him briefly once, but I'm positive he has no idea.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Until I'm going to pull out my money and I hear, what are you doing here? And I look up and it's the coworker. We'll call him Will. And I look at him and I'm like, I could ask you the same thing. He explains that he's on a date and I'm like, I'm on a date as well. And that's right when John walks up. And I was like, but I'm pretty sure John was just leaving because, his friend got a flat tire, his grandma's in the hospital.
One of the two.
John goes, yeah, the friend one. So the waitress walks up with our check and John heads out. And I go home and I call my best friend immediately. I told her, I'm swearing off dating. And she was like, no, you just need a little bit of practice. She goes, what if you practiced with Will? And I agreed to it.
Let's go on a practice date with Will. Although if it goes very badly, it's also awkward because, you know, he's kind of like within the circle. But you cute as hell, girl. Someone will appreciate your awkwardness, okay? Some people like that. Mike likes it.
Or do I?
Buckle up. So he was in Vancouver. I matched with this guy. He's absolutely gorgeous. He's got, like everyone in Vancouver, he's an actor. So he's got like really nice headshots and he's got chiseled jaw, blonde hair, tall, beautiful guy. And we're super hitting it off in the messages, like very bantery. He was really witty, very smart. He wrote screenplays and I'm a writer, so I was like, oh my God. My cardinal rule is that before a date, I call with them on the phone just to like make myself more comfortable, make sure we actually kind of have a connection in real time and off the apps. And so I called him the day before and I'm like, hey, what's up? What are you thinking for tomorrow? Should I come to you? You come to me? What do we want to do? And he was like, why don't you come down to my neighborhood? We'll go have a thing. I'm like, sweet. So all seemed well and good banter on the phone, like rad guy. So I drive down there and I'm like standing on a street corner being like, hey, I'm like in the area. I don't see you. I'm like looking around and he's like, I'm across. I see you. And he's like, and I look and I'm like,
oh no.
What? And so he's obviously the same dude. He looks the same, but his demeanor, he's like probably 6'2", but he's hunched to like a 5'7", and he's just like really like skittish and nervous and not at all what he seemed like on the phone. Fair enough, he might have just been really nervous, but he looked completely different. The way he carried himself, he was dressed very strange, everything was weird. And so I was kind of like, okay, I'm immediately not very attracted to you, but whatever, I can make a new friend on this date. So we go, I assumed he would pick the place because I came to him in his neighborhood, I wasn't familiar. And we go to like 3 different restaurants and all of them are like, we don't have space, it's Friday night at 7 p.m. And he was very like, done, like didn't know how to engage with any of the servers and everything like threw him off further and further and his energy got like more and more high strung.
Whoa.
And it was so odd. And we end up at this bar that's like presumably pirate themed because there was parrots everywhere, very weird. And I was like, whatever, I'll have a bunch of drinks and fuck this strange man. Turns out he writes medieval literature, not quite up my alley, so we actually had like almost nothing in common. And I was like, I'm not gonna lie, like you look a little different because your demeanor isn't really what I expected. And he was like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh, you just seem like a little nervous and fidgety and I didn't expect that from the phone and your pictures. And he was like, I'm doing a bit. I was like, what? And he was like, I'm doing a bit. And I was like, you're not going to try out a bit of awkward weird guy on a first date. Anyway, it was the weirdest thing ever. I got in a cab and ran straight into the arms of my ex-boyfriend.
Who does a bit on a first date? Who does a bit at all on a date? That is not where I thought this was going. I thought it was just kind of like a case of like, oh yeah, you make sure you meet them in person because you can't just be attracted to someone who you're texting. You gotta meet them in person, ladies. Always. At the very least, a phone call or FaceTime. But this sounds like an excuse. I'm sorry. This guy just sounds super awkward and weird and he said that as an excuse. Oh, I'm not actually like that. I'm acting. And scene.
Bravo!
This guy.
Old Spice, 24/7 odor protection.
Have you heard about Patriot Software's accounting and payroll? We're not hard to find. Just go to patriotsoftware.com for a free trial of our accounting and payroll.
Patriot Software.
Start your free trial today.
Hey everybody, welcome back. These are some of the worst first dates that gave me secondhand embarrassment. Been there, done that.
Worst first date ever. He would not get off his phone when I got there. He even brought his baby that he didn't tell me about.
Wait, what?
What are you gonna get?
I think I'm gonna get the full rack of ribs.
Are you sure you don't want a salad?
No, I think I want the ribs. Well, if you forgot your wallet, you can just like Venmo me or Cash App me. That's fine.
Sorry, I don't have Cash App. Where Venmo?
Stop!
Okay, well, like your bank account, you can just transfer the money to me.
I'm waiting for a check to pay.
And so,
So why are you here then?
Little container of carrots.
oh, carrots. Yes, gotcha. Well, honestly, I feel like you invited me here. Like, I feel like I shouldn't have to pay.
I thought you invited me.
All right.
This goes for both men and women. On a first date, do not assume that the other person is going to pay. It's nice if they do, but don't ever assume. Always bring your wallet. I like to live by this. If I like him and he offers, I will let him pay. If I don't like him and I don't see it going anywhere, I won't let him pay for me.
You don't want to owe nobody nothing.
But this is just a hot mess. Like, are we not like self-aware? Even just at like the first, like he was on his phone the whole time. Like I've said before, being on your phone the whole time is just straight up disrespectful. It just means that you're not invested in the conversation. He fully went there expecting a free meal. When he said, "Are you sure you don't want the salad?" I would have said, "Sure, I'll have that too." Then excuse yourself to the bathroom and run. Yeah, there were some red flags here, babe. The phone being one of them and the baby being another. No offense to single dads. Plenty of my friends are dating single dads, but they knew about the kid before the date, okay? Don't just show up with like, the little bassinet. How are you not embarrassed?
The most embarrassing and worst date I ever went on was with this guy who I had only gone on like 2 other dates with, so this was like our 3rd date, and I foolishly agreed to go to the mountains with him and stay overnight at a cabin in the woods. I was really excited the night before and the morning of because I really liked him, so I didn't eat for like 16 hours, and the first thing that we did when we got to the mountains was go on the hot springs. We're having a good time, we're chilling in the hot springs for like an hour, and he suggests that we go get food, so we go to the change rooms, and on my way to the change rooms, I started to get really lightheaded, and then I started to see stars, and then as I like found my locker, I fainted. No. I was unconscious for like 30 minutes. I woke up to a bunch of girls, staff, and like paramedics hovering over me, and the side of my head was bleeding because I had hit a bench on my way down. Fast forward, we go to the ER, they patch me up, and I pretty much look like this for the rest of our date. But it gets worse. So he's trying to salvage the date, and we go to the Japanese like sushi place, but there's no good sushi places in the mountain. And then right after we go to the cabin, but we were catfished because like the pictures in the cabin look nothing like what the actual cabin looked like. Like this cabin was straight out of like a horror slasher film. I run to the bathroom as soon as we get there because the sushi like isn't sitting right with me, and then I proceed to have fucking diarrhea for like 2 hours. There's no vent, and the window in the bathroom was jammed, so I had to get him to help me open it. He was literally like this while he was trying to open the window. After slicing my head open, having explosive diarrhea, and being concussed, I was like, I think it's time for me to go to sleep. He was being such a good sport about it, even though he wasn't sleepy. But remember, the cabin is really creepy, so he turned the TV on to like try to like calm himself down while I was crashing. But what he didn't know about me was that I talk in my sleep. While I'm there like crashing, he's like trying to watch TV, and then out of nowhere, I was like, my friends are here. My dream like mimicked our cabin. I lucid dream a lot, and that my friends were at the cabin with me for some reason, and I said it out loud, and he was so spooked that he literally shoved me to wake me up. And I'm like, what happened? Anyway, I'm glad he got through that date because we've been together ever since.
You know what? I absolutely knew that it was going in this direction. I knew it.
I absolutely knew it.
If you can't have explosive diarrhea on your first date,
quick question. Have you heard about Google Fi Wireless? The Simply Unlimited plan costs only $80 a month for 2 lines. Setup is so simple. You can activate from home with eSIM. All over the US, Canada, and Mexico, it's got you covered. But if you're about to be adventuring, the Unlimited Plus plan gives you high-speed data in over 200 destinations.
He's not the one. He's just not. They're gonna see much, much worse than that. Y'all are gonna share bodily fluids for the rest of your lives, hopefully. If he's scared of a little diarrhea. He's not the one. You sound very entertaining though. Like,
you're different. You're built different. I'd date you.
so much fun. If he stayed at your worst, he deserves you at your best. And that's on period, girl. This story's gonna be in your wedding vows. One can only hope. It's nice to know that some really terrible first dates can end well, you know?
Alright, let me tell y'all about how I ruined my first ever date. I still laugh at myself for this one. So, I was in high school, it was going into my senior year, and I had still never had my first date. My dad was very protective. And this kid from my high school, who was a year older than me, slides into my DMs and asks me on a hiking date. I didn't ask my dad if I could go. I asked my mom. She said yes. So I was super excited. Older boy, goes to my high school, super cute. I was like over the moon excited for this date. So the day comes, he picks me up. We go to the hike, we hike all the way up, and it's all going great so far. We're having great conversation, it's a good time. Then we reach the top. And me being the thrill seeker that I am, I was like, I'm gonna crawl out to the edge and I'm gonna swing my legs over and I'm just gonna sit there. And I was hoping that he'd like come sit next to me and we'd just have this cute little moment, right? Right? No. So I do that. I go to the edge and I put my hands on the edge and I'm starting to swing my feet over. And I've always been a klutz. I'm just a so my phone was in my hand as I'm swinging my feet over. And what do? I kicked my phone out of my hand off the cliff.
No!
I was speechless. Speechless. Even worse, he was speechless because what do you even do in that situation? So both of us just stood there watching my phone plummet to its death. So my phone lands on a ledge a ways down, and to our surprise, it does not shatter. Now, I have protective parents. I think in general, any parents would kill their kid for this, but especially mine, and especially since it was my first date ever, and one my dad didn't know about. So since we could still see it, we look at each other and we go, wonder if we could reach that.
No!
I can't believe we were this dumb. Anyway, so I turned to a random stranger just minding his own business, swinging on a hammock behind us. And I was like, excuse me, do you know how to get down there? And he's like, down where? And I was like, that ledge? And he's like, why? And I was like, I kind of kicked my phone off the cliff. He's like, you did what? He's like, I bet that you would just like hike back down and then try to free climb up to it is my best guess.
It's not worth it.
We decided to do that.
No,
so
you
we
didn't.
hiked all the way back down, not all the way, part of the way back down, and then we started free climbing to it. Now he was doing better than I was, but neither of us could reach that thing after a while of trying. And this random stranger is up at the top, like trying to hang over the edge and direct us to how to get it. He sees we're failing and he goes, do you want me to come try?
Please tell me this ends in a happy ending. I don't know why I'm so emotionally invested in you getting your phone back.
I am!
But at that point, I just don't know if it's worth it.
So I said to him, if you don't mind, and he's like, no, I got you. So he hikes down and he starts free climbing up. And when I tell you this man actually was able to free climb all the way up to it and got it for me, he got it. You know the best part? My phone was fully intact and still worked. And y'all, I'm not playing. Like, it fell a distance. So the fact that it didn't shatter, OtterBox should give me a commercial. This is not an ad, okay? I'm just telling you a story. Anyway, so we hiked back down, and why that boy kept seeing me for the rest of the summer, I don't know why. But he did.
I feel like the worst first date... No, see, okay, eventful first date. If you've got a really eventful first date, I think that it's a good sign, you know? It's a taste of what's to come. Why are y'all going to the woods on your first dates? Like, I feel like that's like, you're already taking a chance, okay? All these hikes and cabins in the woods. I don't know, man.
Our resolution rate was high. Like out of the gate, it was between 50 and 60% almost right from the very beginning. Neo has been awarded the fastest growing company in Canada and the fastest growing tech company in Canada 2 years in a row. And so you can imagine with that kind of scaling and the number of new customers we get every year, we needed to look for ways to help customers in a very efficient and cost-effective way. We saw 50% reduction in agent first interaction.
Would rather not get murdered, honestly. Luckiest person ever for getting your phone back and also for not getting murdered.
So I had the most embarrassing thing happen to me on a first date. And it's been a few days and she goes to me and I'm post-workout, so I'm sweaty and feeling good. So let's talk about it. Matched with this girl on Hinge, which by the way, I've been getting really high quality Hinge matches. I think I cracked the code, so maybe I need to do a video on that at some point. But anyways, we chatted for a few days, everything seemed good. So we planned out a date and I'm a crazy person and I got there like 15 minutes early. And she was running a few minutes late, so I'm standing outside the bar just chatting with the security guy. Fill him in, like first date, met on Hinge, all that good stuff. So she texts me and says she's pulling up. I look up from my phone, Uber pulls up, there she is, cool, we're good. So I walk up to the car, she gets out, I'm all excited, I'm like, hey, and like go to give her a hug. And she looks at me like, and then just walks past me and keeps going. And I'm like, what just happened? Because she has walked far past me at this point to where it's like, this isn't like a joke or a bit. The security guy sees this and looks at me and is like, oh no. Because we both just put two and two together that she did not like what she saw and she just kept it moving. And shout out to this guy because he went into ultimate bro mode and was like, F that girl, she's crazy. It's better you found out now. Just saying all the right things. And he's like, you know, like you would have wasted your time with her and bought drinks and all this stuff. Better you find out now. So like props to him for like trying to make me feel better. But how can you not take that personally and become instantly depressed?
Totally.
So I don't really know what to do at this point. And this guy pulls out, sparks it up and just hands it to me and is like, you need this. And at that point, why not? I have nothing else to lose. So I take a fat off this, cough my lungs out, hand it back to him, BSing with him for a minute, and all of a sudden I get a tap on the shoulder and I turn around, there's my date. No! So I'm like, oh, hey, and we hug and all this stuff, and me and the security guy put two and two together at that exact moment that I got confused. Look, it was a first date. I hadn't met her in person yet. She said she was pulling up. It was a 5'7" blonde girl. They all looked the same. So then I had to go on this date with this girl. It ended up being an awesome date. We had a few drinks. It was like a 3-hour date, which is really long for a first date. And she was super cool. I actually thought it went amazing, but then she ghosted me for some reason. I can't be the only person this has happened to, so I'm having this vulnerable moment with you, and I hope that someone can be like, no, this has happened to me too. Don't feel so bad about yourself.
You know, hasn't happened to me too. Certainly not. Maybe you were just so faded out of your mind that like she was just like, what is up with this guy? Why does he keep eating? No wonder that one girl was just like, what are you doing? Who are you? I think there's a good chance she liked you but knew you were high and thought you were a poor choice for a first date. She may have even seen you. See, this is what I'm saying. Like, if someone showed up, you know, on our first date, it's not exactly the best first impression. I would have told her what you did. Like, I would have told her what happened and she would have totally understood. I think that would have made like a really great conversation. I think I might know why you had a great 3 hours and why she might have had a different experience. I could see that too, you know?
This is probably my number one most embarrassing moment on a date. So my first language is Spanish, and I'm used to words being spelled out just how you need to pronounce it. Now I know this is a Spanish word, but in my mind, I just figured it was an English word and this is how I needed to pronounce it. And for some reason, I just never had to use this word before and I never had to read it. So back in San Antonio, I went on a date with a guy and he picked me up. We were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. We were just driving around. So we drive by this place and I'm like, hey, why don't we go get some strawberry daiquiris?
What the hell is that?
And he just turns to me and he's like, some what? And I point to the place. Wait. So now he's reading the word that I'm trying to say.
Stop.
And obviously it's daiquiris.
No!
And he's like, yeah, let's go get some strawberry daiquiris. He says it just how I said it. Doesn't correct me. And he's like smiling so much, and I'm like, oh my god, he's happy. Like, this is a cute idea. Like, we're just gonna go get strawberry daiquiris and like go on a cute date. So we get to this place, and again, I just had never ordered a daiquiri or had ever heard. I don't know. I just never thought about it. So we're ordering our daiquiris, and I tell the lady, I was like, hey, I want a strawberry daiquiri, and the lady's like, what? And like, I'm like confused because I'm like, well, that's the only thing you guys sell here. Like, why are you confused? I just want a strawberry daiquiri. And she's like, a strawberry daiquiri? And I just turned to the guy that I was with, and he starts laughing his ass off, and I'm just like, are you serious right now? Like, you knew I was gonna say it wrong, and you just waited for me to say it out in public. And he's just like, I'm so sorry, it was just too good. Like, I had to see this happen. So if you're on a date and somebody mispronounces something because they know another language, like, please correct them before they go and say it somewhere else in public.
Funny,
because
babe.
it's so embarrassing.
Oh.
Now my friends know about it, and whenever there's a daiquiri place, they're like, hey, do you want some daiquiris?
Daiquiris! But like, also, it's a Spanish word, babe. You know what that is the equivalent of? Saying that you want like a quesadilla. But like, that's a Spanish word, and it's people who speak English who say that. Daiquiri is a Spanish word. You know what? You're cute. You're so pretty. You're allowed. Please tell me you guys got married. That is so freaking cute.
I love that for you.
A daiquiri. Love that. Me with Cajun, I say Cahoon. Wait, Cahoon? Cajun. It is Cajun, right? Cajun? Cahoon. Me ordering crepes instead of crepes. Don't worry, girl. I called it a daiquiri for the longest time. That's how it is in Cancun pronounce it. Sorry, can I get 3 strawberry daiquiris? 600 chicken fajitas and a small fry. And can I also get a strawberry daiquiri? I even had to like think about it for a second. My sister did that with a place called Dynasty Nails. She called us Danasty Nails. The nastiest nails at Dynasty Nails. Girl, I just learned how to say daiquiri from you. Wait, are we all confused about this? No, I'm not confused. Y'all are confused, okay? But you shouldn't be embarrassed. You should not be embarrassed. You are cute.
You know, I've spent my time on the dating apps, okay? I've hit them all. Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, okay? All of the above. I've been to battle, okay? I've done my time. And one man in particular cropped up recently in my life. He did a little comeback, okay? A little circle around the sun, come back in a really weird way. So I matched with him last year or something, okay? And we were chatting. It was fine. Everything was chill. He was barely funny, which is asking a lot, apparently. And so then we switched to text. We start texting. Everything's fine. Okay, we'll call him Sheldon. That's not his real name. I don't like the man, and that seems to fit him. Okay, so Sheldon and I are texting. Then one night, I go to bed. Okay, and then I wake up in the morning to just a barrage of texts from Sheldon. And they started out fine. There was a selfie involved. He had been out drinking. It was very apparent he had a little tequila on the brain. Okay, so cringe. Just text, selfie. Text, selfie, you know. And I say, oof, that's rough. And then the last text says, you know, I've done enough time to realize, as if he's in jail, aren't we all? I've done enough time to realize that whenever a woman is expressing interest and then she stops texting you, that she's probably out another guy. Sheldon, you flatter me. I'm just at home with my stuffed elephant. But even if I wasn't, even if I was at home with a different kind of stuffed elephant, that's my prerogative, right? We've never met. He and I'm a single woman. I can do whatever I want, but I was sleeping. That is what I always want to do. And so, you know, I respond in the morning. I say, oy, yikes. This is not going to work out. You know, thank you so much for your service and your time. All the best to you. And then he comes back. He tries to convince me, you know, that I've just been hurt before. And I say, who hasn't, bud? Right? But I'm not out here sending texts like that. So, you know, I say, okay, you know, thanks so much. Bye-bye. So we don't talk, right? And then about a month ago, that was a year ago, about a month ago, I go into a bar where my friend is bartending. And I see Sheldon behind the bar, right? Sheldon's working at this bar with my friend. So I call my friend over. I say, hey, I tell him the whole story. I'm like, you know, blah, 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 Sheldon. And he goes, his name's not Sheldon, it's Thomas. Huh? Homeboy's using a fake name. It was 100% this man. We made eye contact. It was bone chilling. It was this man. He's using a fake name on the apps. Oy! Creep alert, right? And then we make eye contact. He walks past me. We're completely ignoring each other, right? Because it's just neither one of us wanted to engage, okay? And he walks past me, and I felt vindicated because he had ripped through his shirt.
How embarrassing. I don't know why that is the most embarrassing thing of all, but it is. Subscribe!
Want zero transfer fees and great rates to Jamaica? Send your first online money transfer with MoneyGram, the fast and easy way to send money.
No one seems to know this, but Amazon actually has a $50 million fund that they have to pay out every single month. And here's how you can get a cut of it. My name is Charlotte Mickelson, and we help everyday people grow their income with this one simple method. And
Hey everybody, welcome back. These are some bad dates that got exposed on TikTok. Word gets around.
Tell me a first date story when you realized they were not getting another date.
This guy took me to a fancy as steakhouse, and we had filet mignon and terribly awkward conversation. When it comes time to pay
the ability to bear children in that.
No! Hey everybody, welcome back. These are some bad dates that got exposed on TikTok. Word gets around.
Tell me a first date story when you realized they were not getting another date.
This guy took me to a fancy as steakhouse, and we had filet mignon and terribly awkward conversation. When it comes time to pay the bill, he graciously offers to pay, takes out his wallet, pulls out a folded bill, unfolds it, puts it on the table, and slides it towards me with 2 fingers like this. Without thinking, I grab it, put it on the check, slide it towards the edge of the table so our server can pick it up. He goes, "Oh no, that bill's for you." I'm confused. I glance over at the bill again quickly. I see a Ben Franklin and I'm like, okay, daddy. But I'm still really confused, so I very hesitantly pick up the bill. And do you want to know how rich I became? I became this rich, which is basically filthy rich.
Hey everybody, welcome back. These are some bad dates that got exposed on TikTok. On the TikTok.
So I got a girl's number. Waited a few days before I texted her. She was happy to hear from me. And made plans to go out. Totally made concrete plans. I verified. Something to the effect of, I'm available, can't wait. 7:30 Friday night. We were going to get pizza, some outside place. You know, I like pizza. I like to try new pizza places, so that'll be fun. So I didn't text her Wednesday. I didn't text her Thursday. We're adults, right? I don't know her. I probably would have blown it anyway. My sarcasm doesn't come across too well in text. So Friday morning, I texted her, "Happy Friday." She hearted it. To me, everything was good. So I'm on the way to the restaurant, running a little bit behind, just like 5-10 minutes behind. But I wanted to be polite and say, "Hey, I'm running a little bit late. If you get there before me."
Rescue Franklin responded to the drowning.
How could this possibly be true?
Matthew Perry died as a result of ketamine.
His personal assistant delivered the fatal dose. That's when we knew there's way more to this story.
Grab an outside table. Her response was, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, I could have not said anything and been late and you never would have got mad at me. And then she said, "We'll have to reschedule." And I was like, we did say 7:30. I'm literally going to be 8 minutes late. I mean, right? That's not terrible. And she's like, "No, you didn't confirm with me this morning. You didn't text me at all during the week." I was like, I didn't say this to her. I'm thinking to myself, I don't think we're supposed to confirm a second time if we already confirmed the first time. I responded to her, "I do what I say." And that was all I said. And she hasn't responded yet. But I enjoyed the pizza. It was a good pizza. It was good, and I enjoyed it, and I sat by myself and ate it, and I had a great time. What sucks is I wanted to go to the gym, but I didn't go to the gym, so I'll go tomorrow morning. Anyways, am I the a-hole for not confirming? Or are we supposed to confirm and text during the week? I'm not a freaking 10-year-old girl. I don't text during the week. I have a life and business and work and all that other stuff I have going on. Are we supposed to text? I don't think so. Are we supposed to confirm? Apparently we are, because she didn't think so. And if we are, then I guess I f***ed up. But anyways.
All right, my good sir, Conky76. So the fact of the matter is this isn't just dating over 40. I think it's dating like nowadays. I would say that about 70% of plans fall through. To no one's fault, things come up. It's especially true if, you know, you don't really know that person very well. If this is your first date with this person, you do have to confirm. You do. You either confirm the morning of the date, or you confirm, you know, the day before or something like that. Like, this is kind of like a new way of doing things, but because everybody just kind of has their own plans and stuff like that, we do have to confirm. She could have also confirmed, I will say that. She could have also confirmed, she could have texted. If you ignored her text, then that's another thing. But like, we do need to confirm. You're the one that asked her on the date, and it's good to be polite and confirm to make sure everybody's still on the same page. Because like, yeah, to me, if I hadn't heard from you like all week and we get to the day and you don't text, like he did text, but like you don't text saying like, okay, see you at 7:30 or whatever, just something quick like that, I'm gonna wonder if you're gonna show up. In which case, I'm not gonna waste my time going to the restaurant if I think that you're gonna bail. It's just too many times of people not showing up and bailing on me and not being there, and just, I've just learned that if there's no confirmation from either party, that it's just not a go. But there's an update, or I guess a response.
Are you kidding? I'm like, I could have not said anything.
Yeah. So a couple things about that video. Essentially, this man met a woman, texted her, asked her out. They seemed excited to get together. And then he didn't text her the entire rest of the week. Day of the date comes up. He says, hey, I'm going to be late. She says, you didn't confirm. I thought we had canceled. We're going to have to reschedule. To which he then makes this video calling her a He texts her, well, I do what I'm gonna say, so you need to trust that next time. My guy, she doesn't know you.
Yeah.
You are virtually a stranger. You even said that. You said, I'm not gonna text her all week because I don't really know her. If I don't hear from you the entire week leading up to the date, not even like a 5-word, hey, we still on? I'm gonna assume that we canceled. I'm gonna assume that you lost interest, that you don't wanna go out anymore. And then you can't turn around and be like, no, but like, I said that, so you just need to trust me. Based on what? We're strangers.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to text someone all day, every day leading up to a date. But if you ask them out, in my opinion, it is up to you to confirm the date. And your reaction also says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he is definitely a bit butthurt. He did call her a B word, which is like, I mean, she's just stating a boundary. She's stating her expectations, and she's not a B word for stating her expectations and for setting a boundary.
How do you know when it's time to end a relationship or when to really fight for it to see if there's something there?
I don't think there's a right or wrong answer that applies to.
No communication, called her B word, has yet to apologize like a gentleman. Correct. Yeah, a couple of red flags there.
Not gonna lie.
Here's an interesting take. Let's be honest, if you had no desire to text her during the week, you weren't very interested to begin with, she responded accordingly. Yeah, this is the other thing too. We don't need to be texting all day, every day. I'm not dating anymore. I'm very happy in my relationship. But when I was dating, if there was no communication and no banter over texts, like at least a little bit, like some check-ins and stuff, to me, it just seems like he's not putting in an effort and that he's not interested. I've never understood this. If you like her, show it by communicating. Lack of communication shows a lack of interest, not to mention being late. Yeah, he is kind of doing like the bare minimum. You know, bare minimum. The people who are saying, well, she could have confirmed too, I've scared guys away by being too eager and needy. So I've left it up to the guy to make the move, to, you know, like I'll match the guy's energy, because if I'm too interested, then that freaks him out. I match the energy, I give back what I'm getting. And if I'm getting nothing, I'm giving nothing. Obviously, I want to know how you guys feel about this. Is he an a-hole? Is he not? Have you dealt with stuff like this? Let me know. I love to hear all your secrets and your stories. Finally decided to go on a date and he made me uncomfortable.
Well, I really appreciate it. Should I cover my half or?
No, I got you.
You sure? Oh, thank you so much. It was delicious. But I'm going to probably head up because it's late. And I have to get up early in the morning, so.
Yep. Well, can I walk you to your room?
I don't know if they allow if you're not staying in the room. It'd just be easier if you. But I appreciate dinner, and
I get it. Okay.
No. If not like that. No,
I get it.
it seriously isn't. No, I mean, I don't
Man pays for dinner.
I don't on the first date, and I feel like you've been kind of like, you've been acting like it this entire time.
All right. You just wanted a free meal.
No. First off, I have no problem paying for my own bill to avoid something like this.
And you should.
Do it.
Are you serious right now?
Yep, just do it. Pay for your own bill.
You're like, I have no problem.
The fact that like there's dudes out there that think that they could just like pay for a dinner and then they have the right to like come to your room with you is like, I'm sorry, like I'm a little more expensive than that. Oh, Charlotte, you're basically saying that you accept money for sex. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you think that a night with this is worth a dinner. It's not. And she's also made it clear to you that she doesn't want to sleep with you. She doesn't want you to come to her room. She's made that clear. She's probably picked up on the vibe that that's what you thought was going to happen, and that's not what she does. And she doesn't do that for a reason, by the way. If she was into you, maybe it would have happened anyway, but it kind of seems like you were suggesting it the whole time based on what she said. And I find it interesting that this dude kind of like, when he found out that he wasn't going to be going to her room with her, that he just said to pay for her own meal, which means that by paying for the meal, he expects it. Guys, this is why when I was dating, I pay for my own meal on the first date, especially if I don't like them. If I do like them and I want to see them again, I'll let them pay for it. But by no means am I letting a dude that made me feel uncomfortable pay for my meal. That's how I feel about it.
So I went on a date tonight. Surprise, surprise. It was pretty bad. And I should have walked out right at the very beginning. Here's why. We sit down at the bar. Bartender comes up to us after we, said hi to each other. I order a sour beer, like a person. This guy says, I'll have a mojito. The bartender says, we don't have stuff to make a mojito. Yeah, dude, you took me to an arcade bar with like 100 beers on tap. Do you think that they're going to have fresh mint to muddle you a mojito? The guy just orders like some random beer that he clearly didn't like. And then he tells me, he's like, I don't really like beer. And I was like, oh, I love beer. What do you like to drink? He was like, I'm really big into cocktails. I said, oh, okay. What's your favorite cocktail bar around here? Because this is Nashville. We are literally swarming with cocktail bars. He's thinking. Like, nothing's coming to mind. He's like, I don't really know. But I know the best cocktail I've ever had. I was like, oh, do tell. He said the best cocktail he's ever had is at Outback Steakhouse. Outback Steakhouse. I was like, oh, I wouldn't have thought that. He's like, yeah, there's one that it comes on a boomerang, and he made the shape of a boomerang. He was like, the best cocktail I've ever had.
Looking to scale customer service without scaling headcount? Meet Ada, the only customer service platform that makes scaling customer service effortless with AI. In minutes, deploy an AI agent that's as easy to manage.
I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time believing that the $7 Boomerita is the best cocktail that you can find. I think I should have just gotten up and just walked away.
So a margarita, a $7 margarita was the best cocktail. He's super, super into cocktails. I wouldn't call that a bad date per se, but that's kind of funny. For someone who claims to be a cocktail connoisseur, a Boomerita at Outback Steakhouse is not high on my list of cocktails that are good. Maybe he was trying to impress you? You put him on the spot. It's like that one episode of The Office where Michael Scott says he knows the best New York pizza and then goes to Sbarro. I wouldn't call that a bad date. I wouldn't. It's kind of lame. It's a little lame, especially if you like alcohol. But I wouldn't necessarily call that a bad date. Let's also not get the ick so easily about silly things like that, okay? Wasn't necessarily a bad date. Guy made you uncomfortable, guy made you feel like crap, then that's a bad date. Saying that he likes a cocktail that is kind of like not that cool is not a bad date. All right, let's hear from some guys. I love these guys. They're so great. Spits and Gigs podcast, big fan. This guy's laugh is probably my favorite sound on the internet.
What's the worst thing a woman has done on the first date? Told my wife we were on the date. She got in the car whilst on the phone and said, drive then. First date. Got in my car while she's chatting to someone else and said, drive then. Drive then. She left the table to go for a piss. I thought, yeah, I'll have one too. Only to end up standing at the urinal next to her. Pronounced remember as remember. Do you remember when? Do you remember when we went to?
Stop it right now. No. Do you guys remember the time? Do you remember the time when I made good videos? Cause I don't. Remember what I said about finding like dumb things to get the ick about? If someone said, do you remember to me? No, absolutely not. Like that one girl that said daiquiri. Do you remember her? Where she was on a date and she asked for a daiquiri? I don't think that guy got the ick from her though. Like I think that they like had a really nice time despite calling a daiquiri a daiquiri. Oh, getting the rosé out. I see.
I have never left a date that fast.
What happened, babe?
You're not ready for the story. A couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting at a bus stop. This very handsome man comes up to me and says, hey, I like your style. Any chance I could grab your number and I can take you out on a date in the daytime? I said, that's really nice. I prefer to exchange social media information. He says, I'm a really private person. I'd really prefer just to have your number. I said, okay, no worries. He texts me. We set up a coffee date. I felt sort of excited about it. I said, okay, I haven't been approached, for a date not on social media or not on an app or whatever in a long time. And I can't creep on this person. It's actually super refreshing. And I was looking forward to it. Today's the day. I get there on time. I'm waiting. My phone rings and he says, hey, I'm just outside. I said, okay. So embarrassed.
What?
This is so weird. So I step outside. I recognize him. He's not alone.
What?
He is standing there with another girl.
Stop!
And he goes, so are you down to hang?
Hang? Hang what?
Am I down to hang?
Hang?
If you know me, you know I'm a very polite person. Having trouble finding my words. I'm so uncomfortable. So he goes, so what do you want to do? And I say, well, I thought we were getting coffee. And he goes, oh, I don't really feel like coffee right now. I think I'm just gonna smoke a... And at this point, I finally locate my testicles from wherever the hell they were hiding. And I politely excuse myself. I say, you know what, frankly, I wasn't expecting another person to be here, so I think I'm just gonna go. I walked so fast, and I called my best friend, and I'm I don't even know how to explain what just happened.
Hey guys, can you believe that Amazon made billions of dollars and only paid zero in tax? Isn't that incredible? That's absolutely crazy. The rich keep getting richer and taxpayers like you keep paying all the taxes. It is so frustrating.
What exactly was this situation? What was the thought process behind this? I'm at a total loss. Has this happened to anybody else?
No, it hasn't. Not in that way. Not in that way. But sometimes I feel like there's been times where a guy has gone out of his way to kind of like put me in my place to say that,
oh, we're just casual.
And they do it in ways that are kind of like insulting, to be honest. Like they'll be like, you know, flirting with other girls in front of you, or like, you know, holding hands with other people, and it just kind of like puts you in your place so that you know that this was nothing serious. And maybe that was his way of doing that? I don't know, babe. That's an odd one. Because he specifically stated that he wanted to go out on a date with you. Just so we're clear, just so everybody's on the same page, if you ask someone on a date, it's just you and that person, nobody else.
As he's scrolling through his phone to find this picture of Kim Kardashian from 2008 in a teal dress, I've noticed that he has multiple photos of her saved. So he pulls up this picture of Kim Kardashian leaving a club in 2008. This is her Reggie Bush days. We're in 2010. She already with Kanye. She don't even look like this no more. He's like, I want you to look more like this. I can't. I actually physically can't. And again, if you're not understanding, I work upstairs. I came downstairs. He's like, well, we could just do a later date. That way you can get time to get more ready. So what you're saying is I'm not ready. I'm already looking as to how I'm going to make my exit. He swipes over to another photo and he's like, or you could just do a more natural face like this. He pulls up a photo of Kim Kardashian with silver smoky eye. All right, I got to go. Bet. Because if you think that's natural, I don't know what's unnatural. Let me go. So I said, you know, you're right. Well, I got to run to the bathroom. If you could give me a minute. I take my purse. I walk back into my office building, take the elevator up to the 56th floor, get my blazer, come back downstairs, and my building was above the subway station. I just went downstairs to the subway and hopped on the train so I could catch my streetcar home. By the time I come out of the tunnel, I have all these missed calls, but I blocked him. My friend tells me the next day, like, this boy said you're crazy. Me? Sir, you have multiple archived photos of Kim Kardashian in your phone, and you're trying to get your dates to mimic that. And I'm the crazy one?
What?
All right, sir. I'll take that then. I blocked him after that, and I lived happily ever after. I realized that when men talk about makeup, when men talk about birthday makeup and crazy lashes and all that kind of stuff, they wouldn't know if you had a lash on that was 1 inch or 30 inches. Live your life and dress how you like.
Imagine telling this queen right here, this literal goddess, that he wanted you to look different. Go date Kim Kardashian if that's what you want your date to look like. Oh, you can't? Oh yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, cool. She's like actually so gorgeous too. That is embarrassing for him. Embarrassing! How are you not embarrassed? But what about the men?
Why did I just watch this video of this girl? She went to a man's house to have dinner with him because he invited her to dinner. And then when she got up to the apartment, there was ingredients laid out all over the counter. And she was like, oh, are you cooking in front of me? He was like, oh no, you're gonna cook. What has happened to dating? What is going on with these men?
Sorry guys, I tried. I really did. I really tried. I don't mean this to be a man-hating video, but I mean, it's all fun and games until the doctor you matched with on Hinge racks up a $2,000 bill on your credit card in Japan and ghosts you after the trip. Yeah. The doctor you matched with on Hinge racked up a that guy ain't no doctor. I'm sorry, but he's not. He's lying. He's not a doctor. That guy's a scam artist. Tinder swindler at its finest. And if, sir, you are a doctor, how are you not embarrassed? Subscribe. Hey everybody, welcome back. These are some horrible blind dates that got exposed, and make sure you tell me your horrible blind date stories down below in the comments. Blind date gone horribly wrong.
So I was out at a bar last night and met this nice married couple, and the guy was like, I don't know how it came up in conversation, but it came up that I'm Jewish, and he was like, I have a great single Jewish guy friend. I think you guys would be awesome together. He's a lawyer. He's nice. He's funny, smart, successful. I was like, great. Showed me a picture. He took a picture of me, sent it to his friend. He's like, I'm sending him your number. To me, I'm like, this is an amazing setup. Best situation you could ask for. So he texted me this morning and he was like, hey, do you want to do lunch today? I was like, great. He had threw out a few places. I really wanted to be outside because it was very nice out. I also have a dog and I had been leaving him home alone a lot. So I was like, oh, can we do somewhere outside? And like, I'll bring my dog. I ended up like finding a place in West Village. They had outdoor seating. Got a res, no problem. Told him the name of the restaurant and that it's in West Village. He got there a few minutes before me. I was like, great, I'm almost there. And I got there, I was like, I don't see you. And he was like, oh, I'm by this side, like I'll come to the front. And I was like, there is no side. And then I'm like, I feel like he's at the wrong restaurant. So then he tells me, he's like, where is this? And I think I had mentioned in passing 14th and 7th. It was actually 11th and 7th. My mistake, but it was just like in passing. And also, don't you think that you're going to use your phone and your maps because it's 2023 and like how else do you get anywhere?
We have technology.
Like, how do you think I got there? You know, yeah. Google, that thing. So he calls me trying to figure it out. And I was like, it's on 7th. He's like, I don't see it. I was like, well, did you put it in your phone? I was like, here, I sent you the address. I shared my location with him. And he started getting very angry and started yelling.
What?
You kidding me? He had hung up the phone and he was like, enough of this wild goose chase. I'm just going home. And I should have known then, but I kind of was like, you're already here. Like, what? And he was like, come meet me on 7th and 14th. I was like, I have a coffee. I have to see if the hostess will let me leave and come back to get you. I go outside and I see it's closer to 11th. Whoops. But again, maps.
Technology.
And I was like, can you walk down to 11th? And he was like, screaming. He was like, I don't do maps. I'm from the 90s. What? So the fuck am I?
What the 90s?
Also, my parents, who are 66, use maps. Anyway, started screaming, yelling, verbally abusing me. And I was like, you know what? Don't come. He then proceeded to dislike my last message. But like, I'm sorry, what? And this was a first date. Like, you are supposed to be putting your best foot forward.
Period.
And trying to impress someone. And instead, you threw a temper tantrum because you don't know how to use electronics.
Technology.
And maps. And like, first off, again, how have you lived this long and you're a lawyer? Kind of concerning.
Period. I'm sorry, but like, it's very archaic to not use Google Maps. Like, I'm sorry if you don't. If you don't, you should. It makes things a lot easier, in my opinion. You literally just Google the name of the restaurant and find it.
All right, let me write this down.
What are you doing? Are you like grabbing like a map, you know, just like unfolding it? Okay, but to be fair, you did get the intersection wrong. But if he was going by the intersection, I don't know, he should have also double checked.
Never want to be one of your clients. But anyway, first date, put your best foot forward. And you are verbally abusing me, yelling at me on the phone. Have never met me. So honestly, dodge the bullet. Because imagine if I was dating this man, what kind of relationship that would be.
Yeah.
Not good. And I ended up calling his friend, who I met at the bar, and told him the situation. He was like, I am so sorry that happened to you. He was like, he probably just frustrated because he was lost. And I was like, are you making an excuse for him? There's no way to treat someone. And also, once again, it's not like I was like tricking him and moving it in a little alleyway, being like, he come find me, like, very well-known restaurant in West Village, like, put it in your phone.
Yeah, I honestly agree with her. New York is actually not that big. It's really not. You can walk from one end to the other rather easily. Not like north to south, but like east to west. Very easily. It takes maybe 15 minutes to like walk from the west to the east. Not that big of a deal. We gotta laugh about these situations. We can't get mad. Honestly, after you're dating at a certain age, you start to realize why everybody's single at their age.
I'm ugly.
You know, for some people, it's like they have high standards. For other people, it makes sense why they're single. And also, you're like a lawyer. Shouldn't you be able to figure this out? Aren't you supposed to be smart?
Oh, it's a common misconception.
Scrappy and Bambi.
Hey, keys.
You already
me wait an hour and a half. So it's for my kid.
Real kid?
Yeah, you owe me that.
And they with their daddy? No, that is.
Oh my God! So go ahead and bring another steak and some potatoes. Okay.
No, don't bring no potatoes.
Sesame sauce.
No, bring the check. I'm paying for my meal and your meal. I'm not paying for your kids' meal. No.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not paying for their kids' meal. No.
So you don't think you owe me after having me wait an hour and a half?
I don't know why she's still there, honestly.
I'll take you out
Okay,
again.
and so you're gonna pay for my kids' food?
No, I'm not doing that.
Can you please go ahead and
I'm not doing that. No. Hold on, beautiful. Hold on. Don't do that. Don't do that. Why
you not bring two, please?
What's in there, Kiera? Why should I do that, Kiera?
Because you sitting right here on the date.
I was late to the date.
You were an hour and a half
late.
late.
Why would I get her kids food? Why would I get her kids some food? They with their daddy.
She was right here.
Their daddy should be feeding them.
She was waiting.
You say you ordered a steak for your son. How old is he?
He ate.
He ate eating steak. He eating the same thing I eat. No, hell no. I'm straight. I'm cool. Don't put that on my bill.
Give him
Don't put that on me.
Make sure you put a side of A1 sauce as well. He paying for all of this today.
I'm not paying for all that. No, I'm not paying for all that.
Yes, you are.
You gonna get her fired up in here.
She ain't gonna get fired.
No, I'm about to go back in the kitchen. You got me messed up. I'm about to her right now. No, for real. I'm telling her right now. No, you got me. I'm not paying for that. No.
Okay. This is messy because we know how I feel about single mothers who assume that their dates are going to pay for their kids' dates. But it sounds like she's pissed off because he was an hour and a half late to a date. In my opinion, I don't know why she waited an hour and a half. She shouldn't have waited an hour and a half. Honestly, I give people half an hour, and if they don't show up, I leave. And that is generous, okay? Especially like on a date. An hour and a half is insane to me. You should not be sitting in that restaurant. She's saying what she's saying because he wasted her time. I get why she's mad. I do. Is the right thing to do make him pay for your children's food?
What do we do now? Toss a coin?
It might be. I don't know. I don't know who's in the wrong in this scenario. I already think that he disrespected her by not showing up on time. But I genuinely want to know what you guys think. What would you do in this situation? Let's find out what everybody else said. I would have paid for my food in that moment and walked the hell out the door. I do get why she's mad. She does have the right to just leave and never see him again. I don't know if she has the right to get him to pay for the food. I don't. That server should be fired. Yeah, the server's like kind of agreeing with her. She's determining a punishment for him being late. Man, run. I mean, that's a good point. Somebody's late, they disrespect you, you choose not to see them again. That's the punishment. You don't like get them to pay for stuff for you. You just leave and you never talk to them again.
Story time. Yeah. Tell me if you had a blind date. Tell me about your blind date story. I'm a star. So everybody knows my name is Kelsey. Yeah, right? And my homeboy thought it was real funny to hook me up with this blind date situation, right? So he hits me. It was like, hey, I got this blind date for you. He's been talking to this person the whole time, right? To hook me up with him. Well, find out this person, her name was supposed to be Ashley. All right, cool. I'm okay with that situation. I'm like, all right. So I've been texting this thing, right? I've been texting her like, damn, you look, man, okay. I ain't seen a picture of you, nothing, but we said, well, blind date. It's like, man, I'm just trying to, pull up to the crib. I said, no, let me pull up to your crib and see what's up. So she was telling me that she was laying there butt naked and all this other good stuff, right?
Okay.
Good shit, right? I was getting happy. Happy. And she would, everything. I was like, I don't want to see. I just want this to be a surprise. So she pulled up to the crib. I ain't pulled up. She said, come to the back door. And I was like, nah, a little weird. Black man going to the back door? I don't know about that. Let me go to the front. So she like, all right, cool. The lights is off. I opened the door. She like, just come on in. The door's wide open, right? Wide open. I was like, all right, bet. So I pulled in the crib. I'm walking through. It's kind of quiet. It's dark in there. A text and was like, hey, come back in the, come back to the back room.
This is getting scary.
The back room.
Bet, lights off. I'm trying to maneuver around all the items around this box.
What is going on?
Dirty as hell. Open and come to the door. And I was like, all right, open the door, turn around, looking around, like, well, I don't see you. And I was like, Ashley? And he was like, Kelsey? Like a deep voice. I was like, hold on. So I turned the light on. It was a whole dude, butt-ass with a banana in his hand, laying in the bed. What kind of shit is that? Like, he tricked me with the name. He thought Kelsey was a female, and I thought Ashley was a female. The whole time, he butt naked in the bed, I'm half dressed. Like, you know how to catch a predator do? I was that person. Like, get butt naked at the front door type of shit. Damn. Yeah.
I'm so confused as to how this could even happen. I thought your friend knew this person. And why did he have a banana? Are we really talking about bananas here?
You don't want to know.
Moving on.
On behalf of single people everywhere, please stop setting us up unless your single friend comes to you and says, hey, do you know of anybody that you could maybe set me up on a date with? Just stop. We're so tired of you guys pimping us out to each other, and the people you set us up with are crazy. One time, I got set up on a date with a guy who didn't even like music. We were just driving and listening to AM radio.
No.
And I said, would you maybe like to listen to some music? And he said, no, thank you. I don't like music. You freak. And I thought he was joking. So I left. And then he said, no, really, I don't like music. What? I don't get what the hype is. Everyone's so obsessed with music. But when you think about it, it's really just different noise than what we're listening to right now. And I was like, sir, are you a serial killer? Because that sounds like something a serial killer would say. And if you are, could you please just calmly pull the car off to the side of the road, let me get out, and kill me there, instead of making me listen to AM radio for the rest of our date. And another time, somebody set me up with the guy. She didn't even know. She met him one time, and he had a dog. And she was like, my friend Kate also has a dog. You guys should go on a date. No! And then she said, but Kate... She was trying to talk me into it later, and she was like, wouldn't it be so cute, though, if you guys fell in love and then your dogs fell in love? And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a solid basis for a relationship. And so I went on a date with the guy. He picked me up in the middle of winter. It was 30 degrees out. He took me to a park. We went on a walk. It was very cold. It was so cold. And so finally I said, I would like to not do this anymore. And he took me back to his car and he said, well, I just took you on a really long walk. Should I like feed you now or something? And I was like, should you feed me? First of all, like a dog. Yes, always. Second of all, have you been on a date with a human woman in a while, or like just your dog? And then when I tell people I don't want to get set up, they get sneaky about it. Like one time I got in a huge fight with my friend's fiance, and then she called me later. He was wrong, I was right, which is why I wasn't shocked when she said, hey, he feels really bad about what he did to you, so he bought you an extra ticket to come see Stars with us tonight. And I thought that is so sweet. And so I went to go see Stars with them. And while we were driving, he said, would you mind taking off your Seahawks beanie? And I said, no, why would I do that? And he said, well, not everybody likes the Seahawks.
Did you just say to me?
And I said, yeah, that's the whole point of sports. And then when we got to the movie theater, he had set me up on a date with his cousin. No. It was a trap. It was an actual trap. And his cousin said, ew, Seahawks, that's embarrassing for you. And I was like, your mom's embarrassed of you. And then he said, that was me, and I was just joking. And I was like, so was I. But apparently, I hit a sour spot.
Oh, girl, she is so unbelievably done. For the record, just because two single people exist in your friend group, in your orbit, that does not mean that those two single people should be together. Although, as someone who started dating someone because he was a single person in my friend's orbit, sometimes it works out. I actually think it's probably better if you meet someone through a friend of a friend. I think it's a lot worse to meet someone online than to meet someone who your friends have already like kind of vetted. It kind of just sounds like your friends don't really know what like a good guy is. Especially not that guy that like assumed that he took you on a long walk and then had to feed you as if you were a dog. Yes, for the record, yes, you should feed me, yes.
Why do you think I came all this way?
I'm not sure if the walk needs to happen before the feeding though. Like, I think that we could just have the feeding.
Hey, y'all. Okay, no, because this is actually real life funny. So this is the story of how I went on a blind date and brought two friends along.
No, you didn't, girl. What?
Why would I do that?
No, why would you?
Okay, so there's this Instagram page that basically connects like singles in my city. I found the page and I'm like, okay, like whatever. I'm trying to make new friends. Like I'm not from this city, so why not? So basically, the host of the page hooks me up on this blind date. Now, the city that I live in is not the safest. And I come from a Caribbean household child, so my daddy has already told me to, move in numbers, be cautious, X, Y, and Z. So naturally, I ask 2 of my friends to check in on me, make sure I'm straight. The plan was for them to get there before me, to scope out the area, scope out the situation, scope out the dude, and then leave after.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
What happened?
Okay.
So I end up getting there before my friends. Was the guy there? Yes, he was already there. I get there. Honestly, y'all, I was chatting with him for 20 minutes before my friends even got there. I could have already been kidnapped. There was really no point in them coming at that point, but it was too late. They were already on the way, and again, I live in a big city. It would have been a lot for me to be go back home. I'm not gonna do that. So my friends show up to the place. I had already told the guy, hey, I had some of my friends come to make sure that I'm safe, X, Y, and Z, and he was totally fine with it. So when they arrive, they come and sit with us.
No,
actually, they walked into the restaurant or the lounge super duper awkward. It was a really awkward situation. They were trying to make eye contact but not make eye contact. The guys looking at us who are these crazy girls? It was really unnecessarily awkward. So I invited them over to just sit with us. Now, the date went well. We were kiki-kiing the night away. We were there for easily 4 or 5 hours. All 4 of us.
That sounded naughty.
Admittedly, I didn't really have much in common with this guy, but he was handsome. So I was you never know. Maybe chemistry could grow, I guess. But long story short, I never really heard from him after.
Turn your ideas into video with AI. Add your branding, customize your subtitles, and
So this woman just joined TikTok, and she might already be the most hated TikToker in TikTok history. Let me explain. So her name's Casey, and Casey is unemployed, living in Florida with her parents, and one day in 2005, life drops a bomb on her. She's pregnant. Now, why is this a problem for Casey? Well, not only is she unemployed, but she's also only 19 years old. She ain't ready for all this. So she decides, I'll just give the baby up for adoption. But Casey's mom, who we'll just call Casey's mom says absolutely not. So Casey has the baby, and she keeps her. And the baby's name is Baby Kaylee. So now Casey and baby Kaylee live at home with Casey's parents. But here's where we run into problems. According to Casey's friends, Casey is a little jealous that all her friends get to be normal 19-year-olds and get to go out and party and stuff, while Casey is stuck at home taking care of a baby. So then over the next few years, Casey starts lying to her parents about having a job. She'll tell them, I gotta go to work. And her mom will watch baby Kaylee while Casey leaves and goes off to party with her friends. These are actually some pictures of her partying. There's another picture of her partying. You get the idea. And to keep up the lie to her parents that she has a job, she starts stealing from people, from her friends, from her family. She's taking money from her mom's purse. She's forging checks, all kinds of stuff. Plus, she keeps making up lies to get other people to babysit for her. I mean, she clearly no longer wants to be a parent. And eventually, she, unfortunately, gets her wish. Because it's now 2008. And one day, Casey tells her parents she's going on some work trip and that she's going to leave baby Kaylee with a nanny. And this all seems pretty normal behavior from her at the time. But then, Casey suddenly just disappears. Like she doesn't come home, and her parents haven't seen her in a while. And they start to get a really bad feeling that something terrible happened. Then a month goes by, and Casey's parents get a letter saying the car Casey had been driving was impounded. So Casey's dad, who we'll just call Casey's dad, her dad goes to pick it up. And when he gets to the impound lot, something immediately is very wrong. Because there's a really strong odor coming from the trunk of the car. And there's nothing of importance in the trunk right now, but it smells like there had been a body in there. Now, at some point during all this, Casey finally comes home. and baby Kaylee is not with her. And that is when Casey's mom freaks out and calls the police.
My daughter was missing for a month. I just found her today, but I can't find my granddaughter. She just admitted to me that she's been trying to find her herself. There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car.
And so police bring Casey in and they question her, and she tells them, oh, I left Kaylee with a babysitter, and the babysitter must have taken her. Her name is, Zanny the Nanny. And police are like, your daughter's been missing for 31 days? Why didn't you call us? And she tells them, oh, I've been doing my own research. And so they ask her where Zanny the Nanny lives. And Casey takes them to an apartment building and points at an apartment and is like, she lives there in that apartment. But when police look in the windows, the apartment is completely empty. And not only is it currently empty, but no one had lived there for 5 months. And no one by the name of Zanny the Nanny had ever lived there. Because Casey never even had a nanny. She lied. And so, bam, police arrest her. Here's her mugshot. But the story's not over, because we gotta get to why TikTok hates her so much. So anyway, this story immediately blows the up. Like, it's dominating the news, not just in Florida, but nationwide. Every news outlet is talking about it. People want to know what happened to baby Kaylee. And so thousands of volunteers from all around form search teams to go out looking for her. But unfortunately, they don't find anything. Now, here's what's really crazy. We know that Casey had disappeared for a whole ass month. So there's a month of time in her life unaccounted for. And what did Casey do during that month she went off the grid? Well, that's where it gets interesting. Because at one point, before baby Kaylee goes missing, someone at Casey's house, we don't technically know who, but someone uses the home computer to search for very specific terms like chloroform and neck breaking. Then, 2 days after baby Kaylee had gone missing, Casey asks her neighbor if she can borrow a shovel. She also, at one point, steals a checkbook from one of her friends and she goes shopping. Now keep...
Want to know how I took my business to the next level? It's simple. It's Shopify. Shopify has all the tools in one place to run your business and design your website.
Keep in mind, her baby is gone. According to her, baby Kaylee had just been stolen by her nanny, and Casey uses this time to steal a checkbook and go shopping? Not only that, but she's also hanging out with her boyfriend every night, and she never mentions to him that her baby was just stolen by a nanny or say that anything had happened to her daughter. She doesn't seem worried or sad at all. In fact, quite the opposite. She's going out to bars and clubs with her friends, drinking and partying. At one point, she enters a hot body contest. She goes and gets a new tattoo. Like your 2-year-old kid is missing and you haven't told anyone, not even your parents, and you're out partying and getting new tattoos? Like, it's no wonder the internet's mad at you. And so this tomfoolery goes on for about 31 days before she finally returns back home to her parents' house. And that's where we saw her mom call the police. And that phone call from her mom, that was the first time the police had been notified that baby Kaylee was missing. So, like, it's just a little suspicious, right? Oh, but it gets worse. From there, police investigate, and they look at her car, and the trunk of her car tests positive for chloroform and human decomposition. I mean, there's just so much, I guess, technically coincidental evidence that some foul play went on. But yet, despite that, Casey still insists that baby Kaylee is probably still alive somewhere out there. She's just missing. And so people continue to look for her. But then, several months later, they get some inevitable news. One day, a utility worker is out in a wooded area a little less than a mile from Casey's parents' house, and he comes across a bag. And that bag, sadly, has Kaylee inside. And she has duct tape over her mouth, meaning she had been murdered. And so then, fast forward a few years. It's now 2011. And this whole thing goes to trial, with Casey being accused of murder. And of course, she pleads not guilty. And her lawyer actually ends up being a pretty good lawyer. And he argues that Kaylee was never kidnapped, that the day she allegedly went missing, she actually accidentally drowned in the family pool. And that Casey's dad, I guess he didn't want to look neglectful, so he covered it up and made it look like someone kidnapped her? And she later makes a very different argument, but in court, that's what Casey's lawyer argues. So, believe what you want. Anyway, so eventually the jury deliberates and they come to a decision, and keep in mind 40 million people are watching this verdict live on TV. And so the jury comes out and they read the verdict and they find Casey not guilty. And of course, people are pissed and fights break out and people are protesting. They can't believe she got away with this. And so then 14 years go by and it's now 2025. And for whatever reason, Casey decides to join TikTok.
This is my first of probably many recordings on a series that I'm starting.
And even though she was found not guilty of unaliving her daughter, TikTok users pretty much unanimously are like, hey, get the f*** off our platform, you monster, you're not wanted here. And regardless, she only has 2 videos up, but she has since turned off all of her comments. I guess she doesn't want the hate. Now, I have no idea if she's going to actually post any more videos. I mean, she says she is, so I guess we'll see.
It is 2025 now. If you're not wearing glasses that you can immediately turn into sunglasses whenever you want or change the color whenever.
A mother is accused of killing her 17-month-old daughter by throwing her off a hotel balcony. It is truly a sickening crime as we dive into the details of this event, her mental health, and some backstory. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Really sad story out of Galveston, Texas we got to talk about. We have a woman who is accused of throwing her 17-month-old daughter off a hotel balcony, killing her. This is just awful. 30-year-old Chanel Yanko has been charged with capital murder in the death of her toddler, Hannah. According to a probable cause affidavit that was authored by Detective Matthew Larson, we learned a lot more details about this. So I want to start when Larson describes arriving on the scene after receiving a call about this unresponsive child bleeding on the road. Quote, the affiant observed a white blanket half on a sidewalk and half on the street. The affiant observed a small pool of blood on the street. The affiant observed the scene to be located on the east side of Beachfront Palms Hotel. It goes on to say the affiant observed that the child was already in an ambulance and left for the hospital shortly after. The affiant was notified at 10:34 a.m. that the child's death was pronounced by hospital personnel. Detective Rogers was at the hospital and advised to the affiant at 10:44 a.m. that there were 3 puncture wounds on the child. So now we have this idea of potential stabbing injuries as well. And by the way, a man named Brandon Uribe apparently saw, or was the one who actually found Hannah's body on the street, told ABC 13 it was heartbreaking to see that, to see a little precious, beautiful, perfect little girl laying there lifeless. Yeah. Now, in terms of the defendant, the affidavit continues. Officer Wilkie advised that he put out a description of a female who left from the location of where the baby was found, who possibly was a witness. Officer Reyes advised that a short time later, he observed a female matching the description that Officer Wilkie had put out in the 6700 block of Seawall Boulevard. The affiant learned from Officer Reyes that the female was crying and asking Officer Reyes for help. The affiant learned from Officer Reyes that the female then began to be making comments about her daughter and that she might have been sick. And then the affidavit explains that Yanko was taken to the police department, advised that she wished to speak to a lawyer. She apparently wouldn't even give her name. But here's what's interesting. Larson apparently ended up interviewing Yanko's sister, Mercedes, who was at the police station. Okay, now before I go any further, because I will tell you there was an officer who spoke to the sister here when we got more details, I want to bring on Dr. April Alexander, forensic psychologist, to talk more about this. Doctor, thanks so much for taking the time. There's a lot that I want to get to about this. First of all, generally speaking, why do parents kill their children? And my gosh, an allegation like this, throwing a child off of a hotel balcony. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so this is an example of filicide, which is one of the killings of a child by a caregiver. When we see these cases, we see them for a number of reasons. We've had research over the decades that have showed that some parents might do it out of altruism, so they think that the death is in the best interest of the child. Some do it as a part of a murder-suicide. Others, if your child is having a terminal illness, might do it to relieve their pain or suffering. But in many cases, we see, in filicide cases, we see a psychotic parent. So somebody who has severe and persistent mental illness, such as schizophrenia, who is not in the right mental state of mind, who does some horrendous act of filicide.
I want to keep that all in mind as we talk about this, because I want to lay out a little bit more of the timeline and get your perspective on it. So as I mentioned, Detective Larson ended up apparently interviewing Yanko's sister, Mercedes, who was at the police station. And it reads, the Affian interviewed Mercedes Yanko, who advised that she was sharing a room at the Beachfront Palms Hotel with her sister, Chanel Yanko, and Chanel's daughter. Mercedes advised that Chanel had come to Galveston several days to see Mercedes. Mercedes stated that on the morning of the 23rd, she gathered with Chanel, and then the name of the daughter is redacted, to begin checking out the hotel. Mercedes stated that she got a ride to the Victorian, which appears to be this condominium, this hotel.
I never thought I'd see the day, but people are saying that they want to cancel Klarna, Afterpay, and Affirm, all buy now, pay later options in 2025. Let's see what people are saying online.
We have got to stop using Klarna, Afterpay, and Affirm for every purchase we make. Since when did that become so normalized? I literally just Klarna'd something that was $80. And I'm sorry, but if I don't have $80 to pay up in full, maybe I just don't need it. It's not an essential. I just feel like using those type of services are so normalized, especially if you're in your early 20s. And if it's not for a necessity, I'm sorry, but it's not normal.
Yeah.
So for 2025, I want to pay off all of my debt I have when it comes to those, because yes, you accumulate this huge number and you're like, oh my gosh, what happened?
And you know they love when people accumulate these high debts on Klarna and Afterpay. Why would they not? They're able to get interest payments off of people. And it keeps you in a debt cycle, constantly having to owe these people all this money. I keep telling people, these companies are not your friends. This is a business, and they are here to make money off of the fact that some of y'all, because I know some of y'all say, oh, I'm going to pay it off on time. Some of y'all ain't going to do it, and you're going to owe money. They want you to fall on a hard time or have an emergency that you didn't know was finna happen. So then they can hit you with those penalties. SYMONE, trying to keep you out of debt. Hit subscribe.
A video on Klarna and Affirm is going viral again, so let's talk about this. This person's comment is exactly what I'm referring to. And I'm bringing this up because I've personally been through it. And I know that...
Okay, it says, I had 7 Afterpays at once. Oh, I was paying almost $400 a month in payments. I was using it for big purchases, but I had the cash. So just paid them off. It was a stressful thing having them. Wait a minute. So why'd you use it?
I made on Klarna and Affirm. But that's exactly why I want to highlight this. Been through it. And I know the mistakes I made on Klarna and Affirm, but that's exactly why I want to highlight this issue, because people don't understand how bad it can get. Like 100%, this is a discipline issue at the end of the day. Yes, you should have like the self-discipline not to buy something that you know you can't afford. But the way that these companies work is that they trick you psychologically. So they say you want to buy something that's $700 and you're like, I don't have $700 right now. So I'm going to choose their option to split it up into monthly payments for 12 months.
Right.
And usually monthly payments for 12 months for $700 purchase be $58 straight if you were just paying that. However, because then they add an interest, say it's maybe $70 a month. Now, if you were just doing that one purchase for $70 a month, honestly, that's not too bad. But then that's where the issue comes in, where people start thinking, okay, I only have a $70 purchase. I don't have to worry about that. Oh, I want to buy this other $300 thing. Oh, I want to buy this $500 plane ticket. I want to buy this. I want to buy that. It's only this amount. However, all of those little things add up. That's what my video was about. And that's the reason I even started talking about this, is because people don't realize how bad it can get very, very quickly. And some people are comparing it to credit cards. And I would actually argue that it's not the same as credit cards, because with credit cards, the interest and like the minimum payment can differ each month, and it's only a percentage of like your total of what you owe. But with like Affirm, if you do multiple separate purchases, they all have their own interest, but two, your minimum monthly payments can actually be way higher than if you had put the amount on a credit card. Because at one point I added up all my minimum payments on Affirm and it was over $400, just like this person right here.
For one, I didn't know that the interest rates vary from purchase to purchase on Klarna or Afterpay, whatever the case may be, right? Buy now, pay later options. But she said that it also can be worse than credit cards. That is a strong statement to make because do y'all know how high credit card interest rates can get? If they're higher than that, I don't even want to know. That's stepping into payday loan territory if it's higher than a credit card, in my opinion.
I didn't have 7 purchases. I had like dozens of purchases. And I was in a scary situation. And that's why I make this video, because I know what it's like. I've seen it happen to other people, and it's scary. And you need to be more aware of this. But if you're a person with self-discipline who doesn't purchase anything on Affirm or only purchases a couple things, like this video is not for you, and that's fine. Like you don't need a comment. It's not for you. Move on. But this is for people like me who purchase on Affirm and Klarna and, you know, had never considered this.
For my membership, right now, I'm just teaching people like very easy actionable steps. I have a 5-day challenge that I did the first week. Today is day 9. I started on the 1st. So there's 19 people in there so far. So I guess one of my questions is like right now, it's only been a week.
Yeah.
Some people are engaged. Some people are not. I can't tell if they're going through and doing the actual modules. I had my first Q&A, my first live Q&A last night. 2 people showed up.
Okay.
But we still had a good time. They gave me a lot of good feedback. So they told me last night, they were like, oh, you know, it would be good if it was like some interactive stuff so we're not just reading all the time. So I was like, okay, cool. So I was thinking doing something like this. So maybe doing some little character things like this where they're not having to do so much reading.
In your classroom right now, you teach them how to do that?
No, that's what I want to do for like my big offer is like have a VIP day where we spend, I haven't decided, maybe 4 to 8 hours one-on-one. So either 1 to 3 people at a time. And we just go through for like 4 to 6 hours. We'll start with building them an avatar for their brand. Then we'll go into building out their UVP. We'll get on Canva and we'll do a brand kit. We'll do 2 social media assets, whether that's a LinkedIn profile, a Facebook profile, an avatar, or Instagram, whatever they choose. Then I was going to teach them how to make a faceless video in that program that I just showed you, Create Studio. And then at the end, we'll build 30 days of content, which will basically be just a headline, a call to action, and some type of visual for the day. And we'll do that for 30 days. So that's my VIP offer. That's the $1,000 offer that I have.
Would you like my advice?
Yes, of course.
Okay. What my advice is, you have these several things for the VIP day, 1K ticket. You have a free membership that has a 5-day challenge. First, tell me what is the 5-day challenge?
The 5-day challenge right now is like day 1. What is a brand? What's not a brand? The day 2 is like understanding the difference between brand versus branding. Day 3 is focused on their target audience. Day 4 is building connection. Day 5, we pull everything together and there's a quiz at the end.
I have really good news for you.
Yay.
The good news for you is that because 2 people showed up, you got to have a conversation and hear a word that's going to change everything about what happens next in your membership. Interactive.
Yeah.
If you had not added the 19 free members in a week, if you had not then continued on with the Q&A, even though only quote unquote 2 people showed up, you would not have heard that keyword interactive. And then I'm looking at your challenge. So this is going to be the key. Okay.
Okay.
A challenge is usually a challenge that has something at the end of it, something that is tangible, something that you were able to transform. Yours currently does not have a transformation.
The transformation is they came in not knowing, and now they know what a brand is.
Your challenge today is not a challenge. Your challenge is a course.
Okay.
You're going to turn your 5-day challenge into how to make a faceless video or animated. Use animated because I think that's a little easier. Make an animated promo video asset. What you just showed me. After 5 days, someone who takes all 5 days will know how to do that. First of all, if you show it to somebody and say, not the inside, the actual the video, and have the video talk about the challenge. 5-day challenge, right? Show the video to someone outside of the membership and to people in the membership who are not yet in the challenge. They're going to see so easily, I want to be able to do that.
Okay.
I want to be able to do it. You see what I'm saying? I want to be able to do that. Second of all, then you have day 1 is foundational stuff. So you can talk about brand versus brand, a couple of things that you do in day 1 and 2 and 3. You can talk about that in the challenge. But your main thing on day 1 is, why do you need this? Why do you need this video? You need this video because you are the brand, and explain it. So you explain the foundation of the why. Then day 2, you say, how do you utilize this? These are the case studies. So you can use this type of thing here, 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 and here. Day 3 is, what are the tools that are needed to make this? This is when you introduce them to that create place. You introduce them to it, and you might even have an affiliate link where you link them to it. Here's a free version and here's a paid version. Everybody go get your account, and this is what we're going to use, and we're going to do. This is you demoing. This is how you get an account. It's how you set up your name. And what we're going to do on Thursday and Friday. No, what we're going to do on Thursday is we're going to build it. So then you do something on Wednesday if you can, and then Thursday you build it out. You do as much as you can show them how to do it, and you have Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to show them how to do it. So on Friday, they walk out with the video.
TaxAct knows you might run into questions while filing your small business taxes, so we have experts on hand whose job it is to know everything about taxes. They do that job so the rest of us don't have to. Heroes. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
When you have Fios Home Internet, you can get entertainment you already love for less, like Netflix and Max.
So this would me be doing it live every day?
Yeah, it could be live. It could be a video that you put up. You could say, day 1, I'm showing you this video. But the interactive part doesn't have to be live, but it could be live. I'm imagining it live. But it doesn't have to be, because you may not have anybody who can make it, right? But what you just not revealing it all at once. Day 1.
I think this is a good wake-up call for y'all.
And she even taught me something. I didn't know that's how it worked. So yeah, this is why it's important that people share this information. You think about why people are sharing certain things online. Just think about the fact that a lot of us wouldn't know stuff unless other people shared it online. That's just how this world works. Information is very valuable, but we all haven't been in these situations. This will help somebody.
I saw a video of this lady talking about how she has over $1,200 a month in Affirm payments. And I want to know how it gets that bad, because as somebody who loves Affirm and Klarna and Zip and PayPal paying for, my balance has never been that high. Like, even when I can afford the total, I'ma still do a paying for option if it's available, because I just like doing things in like small snackable bites.
See, it's different if you're actually going to do it and you're not going to get hit with all the interest rates and you're going to be responsible. Now, there's going to be people that argue, I pay my stuff on time, or just pay it on time. Y'all don't know why I got to be so hurt. And that's great for the people that do that. But there is a larger probably majority of people who don't do that. A lot of people don't even have $1,000 in their savings account for an emergency or whatever the case may be. So when we're talking about Affirm and Afterpay and all these things, it may not be bad for you, but it may be dangerous for somebody else. And that's why I think it's important to discuss.
You know those little kids who like, you gotta cut up their food for them so like they can just eat it like that? That's who I am in real life and in my finances. But with that being said, I'm still pretty responsible. Like half the time I pay the stuff off early. How do you have $1,200 in affirm payments? Like, what did you buy? What is your limit? Ma'am, what's going on? And keep in mind, that was only Affirm. She had balances on all the other payment platforms too. So she was just paying everything in full.
Well, that's because y'all are different people. And that's why I said it might be good for you that you're able to do it and it works and you don't put yourself into debt. But some people are truly going to huge amounts of debt behind Affirm.
Be paying her rent in for. If that's possible, you never know.
Listen, this is a one for anyone who has never done Klarna. Listen, if you've not done Klarna, stay the fuck out of it. Because listen, when I tell you Klarna is not your best friend, it really is buy now and pay the consequences later. Trust me. Listen, Klarna is setting yourself up for failure in the future. It might be all good and dandy now, you know, you're doing it, you get your little purchase, you get your new shoes and that tomorrow. But then when you've got to pay it next month and the next other couple months, you're just setting yourself up. For me, it all started this year, right? I wanted to get my mum Uggs, but I spent off the last of my Christmas money. So I said, all right, cool, let me Klarna it. So I Klarna my mum some Uggs. All right, cool, it was only like £70 a month, bash wash. Then it went from, let me get a little clothes for this one rave that I'm going to. Let me get this, let me get that. Before you know it, guys, I was Klarnaing my bed. Yeah, my bed that cost me £1,200 midday. So that's
oh my gosh, not the bed too. But you see how this just escalated. It started as something so small and innocent, some Uggs, and then the next thing you know, he's talking thousands of dollars already. And he's saying here that's $400 a month. Goodness.
£400 a month. During this time, I was paying off my holiday, yeah, which I was like getting payments left, right, and center because one of my friends cancelled on the holiday. I had to pay another extra £300. So there was money coming left, right, and fucking center because I wanted to go pay a fucking bed that I did not even need. I mean, I'm so happy and grateful that I got my bed because my bed is like the comfiest bed in the world. But like, I was getting direct debits coming out this time. I'm like, blood clot. And then I didn't learn off my lesson then. Then I bought Creamfield tickets and I was literally paying that off, which was like £70 a month. I was then getting other festival tickets and then I went on another holiday and then I was paying up my next Klarna thing. And you know what really done it for me? It was literally the other month, I booked flight tickets, yeah, and I Klarna'd it. But I didn't realize that I Klarna'd it. You know, in the moment when you're using Klarna, you're just like, oh, it seems like a good idea, yeah? I forgot all about this. So I've Klarna'd now flight tickets. I've come on Klarna just to see, oh, that make sure I've cleared up. Maybe I've got like about £50 left. I come and I'm going to have £500 left. And I said, pussy Klarna. £500. I said, this must be bugging, so I must be using my Klarna. I come click on it and it's my flight tickets. I'm like, fuck.
See, now, what he's describing, in my opinion, is he is in too deep. Like, the way he's even leaning towards the camera right now and his hand is over his head, it's just letting you know he's in too deep. Now, he explained to y'all he went on holiday, which essentially means he was on vacation with the Klarna money. And then he said he went and booked some flights. And he didn't know he booked the flights because, you know, now he's getting a little comfortable. And he's like, dang, who done broke into my account? But it was him. And his facial expressions is telling it all. He is definitely in too deep and he is tired of Klarna and Afterpay. And I can't blame him. This stuff is dangerous. Like, who wants to keep seeing all those alerts coming out saying, oh, you owe all this money? Like, your anxiety has to be just going through the roof. And who wants to experience that?
Who even Klarna's flight tickets? I'm like, shit. So I just paid that in full and I was like, this is the last time I am using Klarna, guys. This shit wraps you up. The next minute you're paying thousands and thousands of pounds to fucking Klarna and you don't even know it. It's such a good idea at first. And it's like, all right, cool, I don't have the money, but I'll have the money next month when I get paid. But then when you get paid next month, you've got some next bill. You've got this, you've got that. They're teeth. Yeah, it's teeth in, yeah? Guys, don't do it. Another thing, don't let anyone use your Klarna on, yeah? Listen, I've had so many people, oh, can I use your Klarna? My Klarna doesn't work.
They out there asking to use other people's Klarna? Nah, this is next level stuff. Is this really what's going on in the world? People are asking to use people's Klarnas because theirs isn't working. If your Klarna ain't working, I'm just going to assume you're banned. I'm going to assume that something happened and you ain't pay them people their money because why isn't your Klarna working? Why you need to come get my debt? What?
Bullshit, yeah? I had someone who was close to me. I let them use my Klarna. Now, I come see on my Klarna thing, £600-700 they're Klarnaing. So I'm like, oh, like, you got money to be spending that like a month, innit? Oh, no, I'm just going to refund it. I said, are you fucking stupid? So you got your Klarna account banned and you want to refund your shit on my account? Are you dumb? Using my name. So I'm not even getting my Klarna, you know, account banned for myself because I've been refunded. You're going to be fucking doing, you're taking a piss. Take your shit off. You're not using my account, and
I even called it. I said something ain't right if they coming to you about Klarna. That's like them people who hit you up on Facebook or Instagram, whatever, saying, I can help you make money if you just give me $8,000. Do you got Cash App? If you don't go on somewhere.
whole purchase, yeah? Because you're not fucking stupid. Don't let no one use your credit cards, your Klarna, none of that shit, because people will fuck it up. Another thing, yeah, if they're Klarnaing something for 3 months and you get into an argument with them, what's going to happen now? They ain't going to pay that shit. That's in your name now.
No.
And listen, guys, I've had multiple people ask me to use Klarna. Multiple fucking people.
Who is this man hanging out with? Because I have never had any, well, then again, my circle's small. But you got to reevaluate who you got around you. Why is everybody asking about Klarna? Is something in the water, or you just, what's going on?
And I'm not even friends with you like that for you to even be asking me about Klarna. Are you fucking stupid? Listen, don't ever let anyone use that shit. Yeah? I've already learned before, I will never like put my name on a holiday and let people pay it off. None of that shit, because when you get into a mix up with them and it all goes pear-shaped, it's in your blood clot name, Klarna. Don't ever ask me. Listen, I know people could be like thinking, oh, I asked him to use to use his Klarna and shit. I don't give a fuck. Don't ask no one to use their Klarna. Fuck that shit. Now I've got to go to work and pay off my Klarna debt.
Then he said he got to go to work to pay off his Klarna debts. But what also got me was he said these people wasn't even close friends like that to be asking them. Why did they feel so comfortable asking him to use his Klarna? We're not even friends and you're asking? Whoa.
I just finished paying off $7,500 on a firm, and people in my comment section absolutely want me to delete the app.
This lady was in another video I did months ago, where we were talking about her being in all these payday loan cycles and all that. And then she had all these Affirm and credit card debts. So I'm happy to hear that she is out of debt with Affirm. But yeah, I'm with her. I'm like with the people in the comments, delete the app. But let me see why she won't delete it.
I'm not going to. Please hear me out. I come in peace. This is why I won't delete this app. I have pulled this up a minimum of 5 times. Your purchases are paid off. This is my journey of paying off 49 Affirm loans.
Quick question. Have you heard about Google Fi Wireless? Their Simply Unlimited plan costs only $80 a month for 2 lines. The setup is so simple. You can activate
in 2024 into 2025 in the first month. In 13 months, I paid off 49 Affirm loans, and that's simply
49 Affirm loans. Y'all, she had so much debt, and I don't say that to be mean. She did have a lot of debt. I am glad to hear that she has paid off so many. Oh, the hope this must give people. 49 Affirm loans is crazy. The dedication, the motivation, most people, like, I hope y'all are motivated if you're in debt or you suffer from having all these Affirm Klarna Afterpay payments, because she did too. But look at her now. I love to see this.
Not have been possible, you guys. This is like my little history of showing myself I can do it. And if I can do it, yeah, you can do it too.
True. So she doesn't want to get rid of it because it's a reminder to her, and I get it. She's not saying she wants to keep using it. I just pray she doesn't go back to it. I'm just so glad, and I don't think she's going to go back. 49? Woo! She's on fire.
I don't know if you've seen the video here on TikTok. There was a group of 5 women at dinner, and they decided that the person with the highest Klarna balance is the person that will pay the bill. So if you're not familiar, Klarna is a buy now, pay later system where you buy stuff and then you can either pay by the end of the month or you can pay in 3. They went round and somebody's balance was like 99. The numbers went up. They were varied. And the highest balance was like 500 and something. And then the woman made a joke and she said, well, I got some cute pieces for the fall, right? That's why my Klarna balance is 500 and something. And it was a joke. It was funny. But at the same time, it made me realize that we are all in our own worlds. And what is normal to you, what is normal in your world is shaped by the people around you. And if you want to level up or you want to change something in your life, the first place you should look at is who's around you and what's normal, because that's what's informing your worldview.
Oh, this is so great, because I was just saying with the guy who had all that Klarna stuff and his friend was asking him about using his Klarna. He said they wasn't really friends like that. And I said, who is he hanging around? Because yeah, it does matter who you're around, because you never know. These people you're hanging around might be influencing your bad decisions when it comes to your finances. Or depending on who you're hanging around, they might influence some good decisions when it comes to your financials. Maybe if you're hanging around businessmen, maybe you'll have more business ideas, or you're hanging around people that like to cook. you'll get more recipes or things like that. You see what I'm saying? It definitely matters who you have around you because it's going to shape what type of conversations you're having. It's going to shape what type of thoughts you're thinking. Having different people around, it might challenge your views or maybe open you up to some stuff, or maybe it's going to expose some things that maybe you didn't know were a problem. But if you're just in a certain circle where everybody is around you doing the same thing and nobody really has anything positive going on, or just for example, everybody's in debt and you're not around people who are trying to get out of debt, that might just feel like, oh, this is just how it's supposed to be. And it's not. It doesn't have to be like that. But that might be how you see it because you're not really around anybody else doing things different than the people you're around or than you. This is one of the reasons why I like to listen to people who have different perspectives, because I feel like you can learn a lot from people, whether you agree with everything they say or not. I feel like if it's good information, you can eat the meat and spit out the bones.
There's nothing wrong with using Kalana, especially if you're using it responsibly.
Right.
But when I read through hundreds of comments, people were saying, oh my God, I can't believe that your balance is 4,500. If you see mine is crazy. I'm Kalana's biggest customer. I'm their biggest spender. Essentially, everyone's joking about that.
Yeah.
Which is not really a laughing matter. And it's something that we should all look to avoid being in. And there was a lot of it being made light of. And that was just interesting to me because that's not what I see or hear in my real life.
Yeah.
So the question I'll just put out to you is, what is normal in your world? And who is shaping that?
Definitely some thought-provoking questions that she was asking there at the end. But y'all let me know, what do you think about this down below? Are you down to cancel buy now, pay later in 2025? Are you done with Klarna, Afterpay, Affirm, or did you never use it at all? Comment down below, let me know what you think about this. But we have to start making better decisions today in order to have a better future.
I knew I was underwater. I just didn't realize I was this underwater. If you're stressed about your paper, just get Grammarly. It's free. I don't need better grammar. I need an A on this essay. Grammarly can help with that. Just highlight your topic and it'll make an outline.
You're not human anymore at the end of this process. At the end of the process, you For a southern resident killer whale, there is nothing more important than the birth of a new calf. The southern residents live in the Pacific Northwest, primarily around Washington and British Columbia. Their primary food source, Chinook salmon, has been in sharp decline due to overfishing and habitat destruction. There's more pollution in their waters, more boat traffic, more noise, more stress, all of which has led to more miscarriages. Studies show that up to 75% of pregnancies in this population fail. This pod of killer whales, you might also know them as orcas, they can't afford to keep losing pregnancies. There are only 73 southern resident orcas left. They are a closed population. They only breed within their own group, meaning you can't just import an orca from Norway or Alaska for breeding. That's why it was so thrilling when 20-year-old Tiliqua, scientific name J35, was about to give birth. The calf had gestated inside Tiliqua for 17 months. And after Tiliqua's daughter was born, she was a tiny replica of her mother. Well, only tiny when compared to her mother. Orca infants are 8 feet long and over 300 pounds. Immediately after the calf's birth, the mother and child were spotted swimming together. But the joy was short-lived. The baby would live less than an hour. After the death, the lifeless body of Tiliqua's calf would sink beneath the water. Over and over again, Tiliqua would dive to retrieve her baby, pushing it back to the surface. She nudged it along with her nose and gripped it with her mouth. Tiliqua seemed dedicated to the project of staying with her calf, and her pod never left her. In fact, they seemed to support her. Orcas live in pods known as matrilines. These pods are traced through the females, several generations of whales that stay together for life. Males in the group may stray to mate with other females, but they always return to their matrilines, their mother. A resident of San Juan Island reported seeing Tiliqua at sunset with her dead calf and a group of 6 other female whales. The person described what they witnessed as the pod gathered at the mouth of the cove in a close, tight-knit circle, staying at the surface in a harmonious circular motion for nearly 2 hours. As the light dimmed, I was able to watch them continue what seemed to be a ritual or ceremony. They stayed directly centered in the moonbeam, even as it moved. Days turned into weeks, and still Tiliqua would not give up her calf. Her little body began to decompose. Her skin sloughed off, the soft tissue, especially around the mouth and fins, broke down. The gradual disintegration made it harder for Tiliqua to carry the body intact. But Tiliqua persisted, readjusting her small body when it slipped away, lifting it back onto her head. For the first week she carried her calf, Tiliqua hadn't been eating. At last, she allowed other members of the pod to hold and float the calf for her while she took short rests. Tiliqua carried the small body for 17 days, traveling over 1,000 miles. People from all around the world followed her journey. They seemed to relate to it. An orca bearing her daughter over such a distance was a visual representation of a sadness that we all carry after a tragic death. This really shocked some people, but this behavior is not unique to killer whales. It's seen in many ocean mammals. Orisso's dolphin calf was carried so long by its mother that by the time a human recorded the behavior, the calf was in such an advanced state of decay that it was missing 90% of its skin. When an Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphin calf died, biologists tied a rope around the calf's fluke to drag it to shore for burial. An adult female dolphin, presumed to be its mother, followed alongside the calf and then waited at the shoreline for days. There's a temptation to anthropomorphize, to attribute human characteristics and rituals and grief to these animals. Like, whales and dolphins, they are just like us. Then there's the opposite extreme, which would claim that animals are incapable of feeling that kind of grief, that they just do it out of instinct. There's no real feeling there. I would argue something else, potentially controversial, which is that it is actually humans who are not capable of grasping what these animals feel. Killer whales are brilliant creatures with large brains, high levels of processing and problem solving, language, and deep emotional lives. The brains of killer whales have enlarged limbic lobes, the area that humans would use for emotions and the formation of memories. Their sense of self is not individualized, but intimately intertwined with the other members of their group. It is likely that the social bonds and emotional lives of killer whales are more rich and more complex than those of humans. This leads to the stunning theory that the death of a baby, the worst thing imaginable to a human parent and family, may be devastating for a killer whale in ways we can't even understand, especially since the previous years had been horrible for Tiliqua's pod. 2 years prior, in January of 2016, Tiliqua's sister, known as Polaris, was looking thin and sluggish, a researcher describing her as super gaunt. Polaris was the darling of the J-pod, easily identifiable by the nick in her dorsal fin. But whale lovers had to watch helplessly as Polaris continued to languish. By mid-October, Polaris was dead, leaving behind her pod and her young son around 10 months old, a little whale called Dipper. The other orcas in Polaris's immediate family, including Tiliqua, tried desperately to save Dipper. But without his mother's milk, at his age, survival was all but impossible. Tiliqua and Polaris's other daughter, Star, would bring salmon to Dipper and carry him to the surface of the water. His baby fin was covered in tooth rakes from his pod attempting to hoist him up for air. Sadly, Dipper needed milk, not salmon, and despite the best efforts, the calf soon died of malnutrition. For those of you who haven't been long-time orca-pilled, like me, I'm the highest level of orca-pilled. Even for you, the last few years have been a boon to understanding just how incredible these orcas are. Mostly thanks to the Iberian subpopulation of orcas, who have sunk 5 ships in southwest Europe and damaged hundreds of sailboats. Some scientists say that this recent behavior might be attributed to one matriarch orca named White Gladys. White Gladys was pregnant when this all started, and in her pain began ramming boats and ripping off their rudders. White Gladys's orca girl gang may have playfully copied Gladys, probably passed this on to one another, and discovered ripping rudders off boats is just fun. People claim to have witnessed orcas passing on this very specific set of skills to each other. It has become an inexplicable orca trend, like planking. Another way we anthropomorphize killer whales is to say that this behavior is them taking revenge on humans for the destruction of the ocean. But if orcas really wanted revenge, they would just kill humans. Orcas are apex predators. Have you ever seen them with a great white shark or a seal or another massive whale? But an orca has never killed a human in the wild. The only time orcas have physically attacked or killed human beings is when they were held in captivity, under arguably, that's me, I'm making the argument, extreme torture or sensory deprivation. Back to our southern resident killer whales. We know that orcas can learn things, develop traits that, if they were human, and again, they are not, we would call rituals or culture. It is possible that Tiliqua had developed a method of ritual grief, something her pod now does when calves die. Because just this year, it happened again. In early January, Tiliqua was spotted carrying the body of yet another female calf, J61. Born at the end of December, J61 only lived for about a week. Repeating her heartbreaking behavior from 2018, Tiliqua carried J61 on her head, never allowing her body to sink, for over 2 weeks. I think Tiliqua's story, what she did after the death of her 2 calves, goes beyond just the relatable grief of being a mother losing a child. Something that we tend to do, especially in Western culture, is to put up boundaries and guardrails around our grief. In the modern funeral system, when a child dies, there is a belief that the kind thing to do is to relieve the parents of the burden of having to take care of the body of the child. The kind thing to do is to immediately take the child to a funeral home, embalm the body, present it back to the parents in a pink casket on a pedestal at a safe distance. But mothers, especially, have always been the ones to push back on this. They do not see their child as a burden. There's another story of a mother who lost a child that has always stayed with me. Sayomi Shito's daughter Chisato was at school on the day of the devastating 2011 earthquake in Japan. The earthquake was followed by the primeval tsunami that ripped through the town and left it stripped and blighted. When Sayomi was at last told that 11-year-old Chisato had been found, the mother assumed that meant she had been found alive. She prepared food and clothes for her poor, cold, scared girl. As she pulled up at the local high school, which was being used as a temporary morgue, she was told not to get out of the car. She ignored this and ran inside, where she was greeted by small, amorphous shapes laid out on tarps and covered in blankets. Sayomi described the moment she first saw her daughter to journalist Richard Lloyd Perry. Chisato was there. She was covered in mud. She was naked. I held her and lifted her up and called her name over and over, but she didn't answer. I rubbed the mud from her cheeks and wiped it out of her mouth. I had nothing else, so I used my clothes to wipe off the mud. Her eyes were half open. That was the way she used to sleep. But there was muck in her eyes, and there were no towels and no water. So I licked Chisato's eyes with my tongue to wash off the muck. But I couldn't get them clean, and the muck kept coming out. That image has haunted me since the first time I read it. The image of a mother licking the eyeballs of her dead child, and it haunts me, but it doesn't surprise me. The same way that carrying your dead child for over 1,000 miles doesn't surprise me. There is a raw, visceral grief that comes with the death of a child. They want more time to care, more time to interact, more time to accept this terrible reality, more time to engage in the role of mother. They want to stay with their baby, as Telekwa did, as Sayomi Shito did. Now, this diatribe is coming from someone who was once in the New York Times with the headline, "Something I'm always trying to get you to do is hang out with dead bodies." So I am perhaps biased. But after a death, don't give up your child if you don't want to. Don't give them up until you're ready. That could be 2 hours, that could be 2 days. Telekwa is not just a sad story. She's an example of what is possible. I'll leave you with a ray of hope and a ray of warning. Is that a thing? Our ray of hope is that J62, a seemingly healthy baby female orca, was born January 1st of this year. Telekwa was seen traveling with both J62 and the body of her daughter, J61, but she is now no longer carrying J61. J62 has been seen bouncing along, and that little rascal is in our thoughts. Come on, J62, come on. The warning is that researchers at the Center for Whale Research have found that a southern resident female has the ability to produce a baby every 3 years. And it had been happening on average every 5 years. But now, many of the southern resident females have no babies at all. If these pregnancies continue to fail, or they wait too long to successfully mate, the group will become too old, and they will have to wait to die. There is a need to make changes, especially in salmon policy. Donate to killer whale groups like the Center for Whale Research, where researchers and volunteers lay all this out in more detail. They also document each and every member of the southern resident population. I get emails from them about these individual orcas, like parents get updates and photos from their child's nursery school about them eating carrots and farting. Like, they're very detailed. As always, thank you for your support on Patreon. Our last 2 videos have been demonetized. That's a streak. Let's go. That is frustrating, but fine because of you all and your generosity. So thank you. Example of what is possible. I'll leave you with a ray of hope and a ray of warning. Is that a thing? Our ray of hope is that J62, a seemingly healthy baby female orca, was born January 1st of this year. Telekwa was seen traveling with both J62 and the body of her daughter, J61, but she is now no longer carrying J61. J62 has been seen bouncing along, and that little rascal is in our thoughts. Come on, J62, come on. The warning is that researchers at the Center for Whale Research have found that a southern resident female has the ability to produce a baby every 3 years. And it had been happening on average every 5 years. But now, many of the southern resident females have no babies at all. If these pregnancies continue to fail, or they wait too long to successfully mate, the group will become too old, and they will have to wait to die. There is a... You're not human anymore.
Hey, listen, did you know there's a huge demand for new voiceover talent? The same old voice actors and celebrities can't record everything. There's never been a better...
Christmas Eve, 1977, Franklin, Tennessee. Ben and Mary Griffith were enjoying the holiday at Two Rivers, their recently purchased historic antebellum mansion. They were taking some friends on a tour. Here's the garden, here's the gazebo, here's the Civil War era cemetery. Oh, you don't have a Civil War era cemetery in your backyard? Are you poor? That's sad. That day, the cemetery held an extra exciting surprise because Mrs. Griffith noticed that one of the graves was open.
I do declare.
Gazing down at a hole about 4 feet deep, her first thought was grave robbers. This property had been a plantation, and the cemetery had belonged to the Shy family. The disturbed grave was the plot of Lieutenant Colonel William Mabry Shy. It seemed obvious. People pay money for Civil War paraphernalia, and this was someone trying to get their grubby little grave-robbing hands on some Civil War booty.
My what?
Peering down, Griffith didn't see an open coffin or rogue bones, but all the same, she called the sheriff, Fleming Williams. Sheriff Williams didn't view a partially disturbed Civil War-era grave as being a holiday emergency. It's not like one of those situations where Santa breaks his arm and can't deliver the presents and someone else has to step in, like a ne'er-do-well elf or just a regular guy trying to repair his relationship with his father in his childhood through the magic of Christmas. You know, real emergencies. So the sheriff holds off on investigating the alleged cadaver crime until December 29th. When he arrives at the cemetery, he realizes it's not what's missing from the grave that's the problem. It's what's been put into the grave. A fresh corpse. Colonel Shy's grave was now a crime scene. Williams called in the county coroner, and it didn't take much digging to unearth a headless corpse inside the mid-19th century grave of Colonel Shy. And this was a recent death. The body was still fresh, the flesh pink. The body was a few months old at most. And when you think about it, this is not me giving you my blessing to do this, but hiding a body in an already existing grave, it's not bad as far as cover-ups go. Ex-mobsters have testified that they hid additional bodies in the false bottoms of double-decker caskets. And now it does just sound like I'm giving you tips. But hiding a body like this only works if you cover your tracks, and this grave was obviously disturbed. The sod covering the grave had been carefully laid to the side, as if the perp was planning to properly replace it when the dirty work was done. Perhaps the killer had been interrupted and forced to run away mid-burial. Since this was quite an unusual case, they decided to call in Dr. Bill Bass. Not only did Dr. Bass head the anthropology department at the University of Tennessee, he was also the Tennessee State Forensic Anthropologist, consultant to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner of Tennessee, and a consultant to the FBI of Tennessee. He had a badge and everything. A corpse badge. Special Corpses Unit. Bass, accompanied by his son Charlie, who was also studying to be an anthropologist, arrived graveside on December 30th to investigate this headless holiday corpse. By now, Colonel Shy's grave had been excavated, so it was 3 feet wide and 3 to 4 feet deep.
Peering down into it, I could see exposed flesh and bone.
Digging further into the mud, Bass and his son found a body, relatively fresh, but still into an advanced state of decay. Bass again.
By now, some of the joints had deteriorated. The legs were separated from the pelvis, and the arms were detached from the torso. The knees and the elbows, however, were still intact, and still covered with clothing, as was most of the torso.
There were some strange things about this body beyond the missing head. The corpse was wearing a coat with tails and dress shoes. Dr. Bass thought perhaps the body belonged to a waiter at a fine dining restaurant. Even more strange, the body was in a sitting position, plopped on top of Colonel Shy's cast iron coffin. Burying a body in a sitting position requires less horizontal digging and makes for a faster burial, if you're, say, trying to hide a body quickly in a Civil War cemetery. Okay, now this is truly just a whole list of advice. There were also 2 cigarette butts, probably from the body disposer / maybe murderer, nervously puffing away as he performed his odious task. Making things more confusing, since the grave was over 100 years old, Colonel Shy's coffin had begun to collapse, and there was a substantial 1 by 2 foot hole on the top. Some of the fresh body's pelvis and lower spine had fallen down into the coffin. At one point, Bass shone a flashlight into the coffin to have a look around, but not surprisingly, after 100 years of decomposing, all that was left of Colonel Shy was, quote,
a thin layer of goo in the bottom.
After extracting the body, the cigarettes, and the clothes from the grave, Bass and his son put the remains in the trunk of his Ford Mustang.
Yeehaw!
They dropped the clothes and cigarettes at the state crime laboratory, where technicians would look for clues as to the identity of the corpse and the killer. And the body itself? They just left that in the trunk.
Yeehaw!
They went back home to Knoxville, parked the car in the garage, and went inside to watch football on TV. Listen, proper methodological investigative work on a corpse was a little different in Tennessee in 1977. Dr. Bass was like,
he ain't going nowhere.
On Monday, Bass would drive the corpse into work, take your corpse to work day, to begin the task of investigating the bones at the anthropology department offices of the University of Tennessee. Bass calls himself a bone man.
Well, I'm a bone man.
In that he believes bones tell truths.
I believe bones tell truths.
He has said,
flesh decays, bone endures. Flesh forgets and forgives ancient injuries. Bone heals, but always remembers.
That is to say, you can't count on flesh. It bloats, decays, stretches, shrinks. An animal might have gobbled some tissue or made off with an ear. Bones, even if you don't have a full set, are just more reliable. So Bass got to work separating the flesh from the bones in order to determine what he calls the Big Four: sex, race, age, and stature. Now, in the 1970s, at the elite level of forensics, removing flesh from bone was a painstaking process, involving a steady surgeon's hand and technology such as a pot and some water. I don't normally do content warnings, but this next part's a little grim. Bass's technique for removing flesh from bone was to simmer it for a few hours like a macabre stew before scrubbing the bones clean with a toothbrush. At his facility at the University of Tennessee, Bass used a Hamilton Beach crock pot for smaller bones and a large kettle for a full skeleton. One of Bass's larger kettles was literally used for making stew at a nursing home before it made it to his lab. I guess better that than the other way around, like the body deflesher first and then the nursing home stew pot after. The body parts were then cooked in water and Biz laundry bleach. Sometimes Bass added Adolph's meat tenderizer, made by Lowry's, the same folks who make your taco seasoning.
Lowry's, the tastiest tacos.
Again, the stew thing is not a joke. I'm smiling, but it is, alas, not a joke. When Bass first started experimenting with this process, he did it at home, using his wife's cookware. That is, until the sinister broth boiled over and ruined their stove.
Bill?
You know how chicken soup boils over on your stove and burners and it gets everywhere and you're smelling chicken every time you turn on the stove for the next month? What if I told you that in the Bass household that chicken was a putrefied body? After that incident, his wife got a new stove, and Bass got a real lab. Anyway, Bass set to work cleaning the body that had been found in the grave on the Griffiths' property. The bones from Colonel Shy's grave were an incomplete set. Obviously, the head was missing, but also the feet and one hand. Missing appendages weren't that unusual in Bass's line of work, but it didn't seem like this was the result of animal predation prior to the burial. Bass was able to confirm that the sex of the body was male, white, somewhere between the ages of 26 and 29, and in life he had stood between 5'9" and 6 feet tall. He was able to confirm the opinions of the original investigators, which was that considering the state of the soft tissue, the body couldn't have been dead for more than a few months. But who was this man? How did he die? So far, the bones did not match any missing persons reports in the area. By now, the press had gotten a hold of this story and were reporting on this mystery corpse. Given where the body was found and the missing feet and the missing head, not surprisingly, there was speculation that a murderer at best, a serial killer at worst, was on the loose in Tennessee. Then, on January 3rd, a break in the case. The skull and the mandible show up, delivered to Bass by a sheriff's deputy. The deputy and the coroner had gone back to Shy's grave, excavated it further down, and found the skull plus the missing feet and arm. Now that they had the skull, a cause of death could be determined. A massive, close-range gunshot wound to the head. The skull was fractured into 17 pieces, which Bass reassembled to get a clearer picture of entry and exit wounds. But the arrival of the skull only brought more mystery. It didn't appear that this person had ever had any dental work done. And unlike the body, the skull had almost no flesh on it. Then the crime lab called.
These clothes are weird,
they told Dr. Bass. There were no synthetic fibers in the clothes, no labels, and the pants and shoes were very old-fashioned. Bill Bass had a sinking feeling. The body they found in Lieutenant Colonel William Shy's grave couldn't be Lieutenant Colonel William Shy, could it? The body they had in custody had only been dead a few months. Colonel Shy died in the freaking Civil War! Yes, true. At the time of his death, Colonel Shy had been a 26-year-old white male, just like the body in the grave. But that could just be a coincidence. When did Colonel Shy die? I see. In the 1864 Battle of Nashville. How did he die? By a close-range gunshot wound to the head? Also just like the body in the grave? A woman named Emily Compton saw Colonel Shy's body laid out for burial in 1864 and said,
I saw him as he lay so peacefully there, with that cruel hole in his brow.
Okay, so we have a body wearing old clothes with no dental work and a gunshot wound to the head. Are you fellas investigating a grave robbery? Or are you just straight up engaging in grave robbery? Because it's starting to seem like you pulled that man right out of his grave. I'll spare you the suspense. They couldn't deny it any longer. This was definitely Colonel Shy. As Bill Bass would say,
I got the age, sex, race, height, and weight right, but I was off on the time of death by 113 years.
But how was Bass so off? If you recall, the body was so pink and fresh and located entirely outside of the coffin that you can almost see in the retelling the moment that all of the people investigating this case turned off their brains to the possibility that this could be Colonel Shy. When Mrs. Griffith, the homeowner, first made the call to authorities, she reported it as a grave robbery gone wrong, and she actually was correct. The cigarette butts that they found likely did belong to the robbers. Bass and the coroner and the sheriff weren't looking at a corpse that had been put into a grave. They were looking at a corpse that was in the process of being pulled out of the grave. Someone or someones had been trying to pull Colonel Shy's body out of his coffin via a hole punched into the top. This was a common tactic in grave robbery in the 19th century, and it appears also the late 1970s. A grave robber would bore a hole in the top of the coffin, loop a noose around the corpse's neck, and yank the body out. Because Colonel Shy had been dead for over 100 years, as the grave robbers tried to wrestle and yank the body out through the hole, the head, hand, and feet popped off. Of course, the culprits likely didn't want the body itself. Even well into the 21st century, you could turn on Antiques Roadshow or Pawn Stars and see people trying to sell anything from buttons to medals to full uniforms from the Civil War.
If this uniform is real, it could be worth some serious money.
Items from the Confederacy are especially hard to authenticate because when it fell, so did its record keeping. Into the 2010s, a single Confederate button could fetch as much as $150. And if you could get your hands on a high-ranking officer's sword, you could be getting something in the $30,000 range. But the question this whole thing rests on is, why did Shy's body look like a fresh corpse? How was it so well preserved? First, Colonel Shy had been buried in a cast iron coffin that was hermetically sealed. This coffin kept Shy's body in a low oxygen environment away from flies and water and bacteria for over 100 years. Second, Colonel Shy had been embalmed. 1864 was still early days of American embalming, and Shy was embalmed using arsenic. As was common for Civil War soldiers, especially for someone with the colonel's standing, an arsenic solution would have been injected into Shy's arteries, with the whole body possibly being bathed in it. His internal organs might also have been removed if they were starting to decay. If someone died in battle, thwarting the odor of decomposition was crucial if you wanted to have the body transported to be buried at home. Hence the old phrase, train conductors don't lift a pinky for a body that's too stinky. I made that up. Arsenic is effective at preserving a body because it kills bacteria, slowing decomposition. But there are a lot of reasons we don't use arsenic to embalm bodies anymore. Not only is arsenic a carcinogen, it can wreak havoc on an embalmer's health over time, causing death. Plus, while a body will eventually decompose, as Colonel Shy was starting to do, the arsenic itself will not. The flesh decays, but the arsenic remains, and that arsenic can leach out into Civil War cemeteries and get into the town's water supply. But in Colonel Shy's case, arsenic embalming? Absolute win. Great success. Understand that Bill Bass was largely a modern criminal death investigator. He was investigating and processing bodies found in the woods, recent victims of foul play. He didn't really work with embalmed bodies. Think about it. How many murder victims are embalmed before being dumped in the woods? Okay, there was that one embalmed head that they found in the woods in Pennsylvania.
Crime Stoppers and law enforcement are offering a $10,000 reward in the case of an embalmed head found back in 2014 in Beaver County.
That's a story for another time. Point is, Colonel Shy's body was so deceptively, remarkably preserved because of his coffin and embalming. Mystery solved. But you guys, let's be so for real right now. This whole incident was so embarrassing. Like, so embarrassing. They had everyone thinking a serial killer was on the loose. The January 13 Tennessean headline read, "It's official. Shy in own grave." Now, a lesser man might have taken his embarrassment and slunk off into a dark corner of his lab to make his weird bone stew and never be seen again. But not Dr. Bass, not Special Corpses Unit. Dr. Bass realized that neither he nor anyone else in his field really had a solid grasp on what happens to our bodies when we die.
There is no data that exist on this at all.
There were so many possibilities for rates of decomposition depending on weather, clothing, location, and yes, embalming. So what did Bass do? He set out to learn from his mistake. Or maybe he
Turn your ideas into video with AI. Add your branding, customize your subtitles, and resize for any platform instantly. Then share it with the boss. And be ready to do it again. Think creating video is hard? Not with Veed. Powered by the AI partners you know.
Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and ladies and gentlemen, that 51st state of Canada is about to look like a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of those weird things where, about a month ago I made a video where it's like, it's about to get real bad. And I was looking at the start of a trade war between Canada and the US, and normally I don't really talk about this kind of stuff, but it does actually end up personally affecting everyone here. And when you can't stop hearing about something every 20 seconds, like every day, it all appears to get just worse and worse, yeah, it's gotta be talked about. It's gotta be discussed, okay? So as you all know, I'm a Canadian, okay? I'm from the land of the maple leaf, maple syrup, and all that good stuff. And for the longest time, I have been great friends with my friends down south. I actually live like an hour away from the border, and it's a pretty good time. I actually go back and forth a fair bit. There's good friends of mine that live in Buffalo. I go there, they come here, it happens, okay? It's a life, all right? It's part of that experience. But unfortunately, in recent times, it really seems like I don't have to cross the border that much anymore, because the guys down south might just end up taking over Canada. Much like the Fallout franchise, where Canada was annexed by the United States, and people were just shot in the head in that franchise. Okay, it wasn't exactly a peaceful annexation. We didn't just bend over, spread our ass cheeks, and tell you, yeah, please fuck us repeatedly. No, it was actually pretty violent in that game. Okay, people don't really talk about it all that much, but yeah, it is what it is. That's kind of how it seems to be in reality land, especially when an annexation happens. Now, if you look into the actual polls, you might be like, but Muda, what if the people in the Maple Leaf land want to be Americans, okay? Now, to give you an idea, there are some people that probably do. In fact, I've even joked about it, but the thing about jokes is I never expected that joke to eventually, maybe one day, be a possible serious reality. There was a recent poll done by the Angus Reid Institute where they actually said that 9 in 10 Canadians unanimously said we should not join the U.S. What a shocker. Bunch of people love their sovereignty. I know, really wild indeed. But, every single, other day, the president of the United States, I wouldn't even be making this video if it had just been, some fucking no-name dipshit, okay? That happens all the time, all right? I'm sorry to say. There are dumb crackpot nut jobs everywhere. But when the largest person in the room, when the highest dude in the room is saying it, yeah, it's a little worrisome, okay? So I want you to listen to this one right here. We as Canadians, we've been listening to this shit every other day, okay?
And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S. Just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state. Keeping "O Canada," the national anthem. I love it. I think it's great. Keep it. But it'll be for the state, one of our greatest states. Maybe our greatest state.
Wait, hold on. Now, on one hand, for the last month, we've been told we're a cuckold, lip-tard state that nobody wants, okay? Nobody would like it. We have nothing to offer. They've got nothing to give. And then all of a sudden, if they become part of it, they might be the greatest state. Now, of course, for Canadians who are like, whoa, would you become a voting state? I don't think anyone in that country would want Canada to be a voting state. Okay, do you want another California? Do you want another liberal bunch of people voting? It ain't gonna happen, all right? I've lived in the U.S. I've learned about how voting works over there. If anything, they'd probably make us Guam 2.0. They'd probably keep us like Puerto Rico, just a territory, not necessarily a state, I would say. I don't think we would agree to it, but then again, when it comes to the threat of annexation, the U.S. military is such a strong army that I'm pretty sure they can take on every single army in the world. Probably at the same time. So yeah, it really wouldn't be our decision making, okay? It would just be the choice of the person attacking. Now, when he talks about the line as well too, to give you an idea, a little parallel is the War of 1812, for instance, right? When the U.S. was fighting against the United Kingdom and a lot of its allies. And the origin for this war was often discussed with trade restrictions introduced by Britain to impede American trade, the impressment of seamen on U.S. sea vessels, but this is the most important one, a possible desire by the U.S. to annex some or all of Canada. And of course, I wanted to look at, how the fuck did we decide our boundary wall, okay? I actually think this is an interesting concept. How do countries decide that where the line begins and where it ends, right? Who decides how much land we have? And based on this one example here, all right, from Canada, the Canadian Encyclopedia, October 20th, 1818, a British-American convention clarified the western border between Canada and the United States as a line from the farthest northwest point of the Lake of the Woods to the 49th parallel and then west of the Rocky Mountains. And of course, it then get decided more and more and more and more and more, right? To the point where basically over 100 years through international border agencies, through deciders, we basically put down exactly where our land begins and where it ends. Through several wars and decisions, we have both collectively come basically deciding where we should put our lines. This is not somebody drew an imaginary line. We decided this through the course of several years. Now, there's been other bits of misinformation that I've been seeing posted around about it, with obviously related to the reason why all of this happened in the first place. So for anybody that doesn't know, we have tariffs on Canada and back and forth. In fact, they were kind of like pussyfooting around this. Like, for one day they got introduced, the Americans removed it like a couple days later. So it's like, dude, just shit or get off the pot, okay? Either fuck us in the ass or stop tempting it, okay? Just do it or don't. And one of the big realities of it was obviously the funneling of a drug known as fentanyl. Now, to give you an idea, Canada was responsible for a very minuscule amount of said fentanyl coming in. In fact, ever since the first bout of those tariffs and us actually increasing our security, that number ended up dropping all the way down 97% to less than 14 grams. And this information is not information that Canada has made up. This information comes from the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol Agency, okay? You can read this information from yourself. It comes from the U.S. A lot of people have said that, oh man, Canada's not doing enough. Bro, when stuff comes into your country, it is your border agency's responsibility. If they're not doing their job, I would imagine you should get your own house in order. At this point, I'm pretty sure Canada imports more illegal fentanyl than the other side. But honestly, I really do wish that this drug was just stopped overall. Fentanyl is really, really scary. Really spooky. One of the actual, like, unrelated topics to this video I covered was, like, the end of an era where I looked at, YouTubers who were doing angry reviews. One of them was a guy named Silent Rob, and his life was effectively destroyed because of this drug. It's just that when this drug you take, it has such a hold on you that it's almost impossible to get rid of. If I could remove this illegal drug from existence, like the illegal use of it, I 100% would. And of course, when you go back to like security on that border, even though we've basically capitulated and given everything that the Americans wanted, it's still not enough. So realistically, it's just making it make sense. What do they want? Now, the big thing about this whole situation is you probably noticed that like Canada's been getting rid of all that American booze. So for me to go get some Jack Daniels is just not going to be happening all that easy, okay? A lot of that American stuff is removed, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't like this level of disturbance between countries that really should just be friends, okay? It is actually kind of just sad to really talk about. But Canada responded, and we pretty much are not bending over, all right? Now, obviously, look, Canada is far weaker than the United States in its military and its trade, but if it's one beautiful thing that I've seen kind of kick out of this is Canadians have kind of unified together. And I've actually, like, I do grocery shopping. Like, I go out and I actually shop for my groceries. Okay, it's a very adult, normal thing to do. And every time I go there, there's a very, very big stance every time you go to the grocery store to buy Canadian. In fact, if anything, it's pretty much like just shown in like magic, like giant lettering that this is a Canadian product and that's a product from the old down south. And it normally never used to be like that, but Canada has made a concerted effort to at least support ourselves, even though it's mostly a battle of attrition. And the more and more I read about our retaliation, it definitely is something we're doing because we're all just inspired. We are a country that is proud of ourselves, and honestly, I don't think Canada wants to see itself ever dissolved, which is actually pretty heartwarming to see. Now, even amongst all these tariffs, there have been other pieces of misinformation. Like, I saw this entire list of tariffs that Canada has placed on America as like, hey, they're doing it to us. Fuck you. And then I started to look even closer into that. And the reality of it is, even entire international organizations say that that's wrong. It takes one search to clarify this. For instance, the International Dairy Foods Association actually did talk about this. So in one situation regarding those tariffs that Canada put on, the actual IDFA said it is accurate that Canada imposes a tariff of approximately 250% on U.S. exports of certain dairy products into Canada, and even more with those 25% retaliatory things that we put on top. However, the tariffs would only apply if we were able to reach and exceed a quota on the U.S. dairy exports agreed to under the USMCA Act. Now, for anybody that has no idea about this act, Trump is the one that wrote it. Like, dog, you made one of the greatest trade deals of all time, and now we're backing off on it. What the fuck? Frustratingly, the U.S. has never gotten close to exceeding our USMCA quotas because Canada has erected various protectionist measures, which we've always have done. In fact, these measures existed for a long time, and they were agreed for by the greatest salesman in the world, okay? It's really hard to do his voice. But yeah, it's just insane that we're reneging on a deal that was apparently supposed to be one of the greatest trade deals of all time. The U.S. trade area is grateful for the Trump's administration to hold Canada accountable for these protectionist measures. At the same time, a prolonged tariff war with our top trading partners will continue to create uncertainty and create costs. And it really is. Like, it's a bad situation for every side involved. Now, obviously, I don't think that a tariff is terribly the worst thing ever made. In a lot of ways, if you want to protect your own country and your own things, like the US clearly does, it's good to have. But destabilizing these relationships that exist between both countries is just never a good look. It's never good. And a lot of the talk about annexations, right? Like, there's even more clips. I showed you one, but here's another one right here. As this trade war was escalating, effectively Trump's posting around based on Ontario, Canada, placing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into the US. I have instructed my secretary to add an additional 25% tariff to 50%. It's like reading somebody play fucking Civilization, dude. It's crazy. Canada must immediately drop their anti-American vomit tariff from 250 to 390. You agreed on it. You wrote this. You said it was the greatest trade deal. What the fuck? I will shortly be declaring a national emergency within the threatened area. So, when you start reading things like this, again, like I said, if it was some random dipshit nobody, like, who gives a fuck, right? But if it's the President of the United States, then we gotta be a little bit concerned, okay? Your brilliant anthem, O Canada, will continue to play, but now representing a great and powerful state within the greatest nation that the world has ever seen. And the thing about it is, it's like having like crazy tariffs like this is basically a way to destabilize this country to the point where I really do think that the end goal is basically making us hungry, poor, and completely destitute, and just basically forcing us to effectively be absolved. And the thing about it is, look, the scariest case scenario, and I really do think a lot about war and like end of the world scenarios and shit like that, like end of it all. 90% of this country lives by the border, okay? It really isn't that difficult for the Americans to come over with their army and do shit that they need to. But one thing that I have seen about Canadians is they're not afraid to really be fighting back. One of the interesting things is, as I signed up for my gun license, and this is a while ago, in Canada, in order to get like RPAL licenses, you have to take like actual courses. You have to actually go to like a gun, you have to do like a CFSE course. You have to actually know firearms and safety. And generally, those classes you have to apply and book with like private people so that they can like, verify you, and then you actually go do the paperwork to get your RPAL licenses or PAL licenses, whatever the Canadian gun license you need. And those classes have been like booked up. People are fucking actually back into like getting firearms, which is probably one of the cooler things that I'm seeing. 90% of this country does not want to be an American. And honestly, if shit comes down to it, goddamn, at least it sounds like we ain't just laying down. And if we are laying down, it's going to be us pushing up daisies, because at least we kind of fought back against it. And that is just a weirdly depressing thought to think about, Everything that Trump's saying, it's like a rapist talking to you. They just don't take no for an answer. But the reality of it is, it's like, this is not something that is easy to ignore. Like, people can think of it as like a joke down there. But like for people who live in Canada, for instance, who have to just keep like hearing this rhetoric every single day, and then obviously things are getting more expensive on both sides anyways too. So everyone's feeling the brunt of it, and especially for Canadians, seeing things deteriorate like this is never great. Like, I'm somebody that loves the United States. I have a lot of friends and family that live there. And to see the relations drop like a rock in literally just a month is probably one of the saddest things to see. And it's not the only ally, by the way, too. There's plenty of other allies, Europe, Japan, for instance, that are feeling the brunt of just crazy decision-making. And it's just not a good situation to be in. Sometimes I wonder if this is like the end of the fucking world. Now, quote from Benjamin Franklin, it is the first responsibility of every citizen to question authority. I don't know if it's entirely, Ben Franklin's statement over here, but generally speaking, ladies and gentlemen, I really do think that, worst case scenario, I really don't think that there might be, like, boots over the actual, like, border. At least I hope not. God damn, that's scary. But daily when you hear this kind of rhetoric and you hear it constantly being normalized, it is something where I kind of wonder if people on the other side side of the border are a little bit questioning as well, too. There are some things that probably, shouldn't happen. And I like to imagine that people over on the other side of the border might choose to blink twice if ever asked to attack their neighbors. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been neighbors for decades, and I hope to remain neighbors for hundreds of years. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. It's such a wild situation, and honestly, I don't really like jumping into this era of like discussion, but honestly, as a Canadian and as somebody that has to see it, this video is more like a vent video to me, and I actually thought, based on a month and a half ago, things would actually maybe get better. But we're at like the lowest relations we've probably seen for a while. And it doesn't seem like it's turning around. Nobody's getting the picture. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and that's all I gotta say. I'm out.
So I need a degree for a job I've been doing for 10 years.
Yep.
I'm joined now by the U.S. Senator from Arizona, Mark Kelly. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Brian, thank you for having me on.
So a lot to talk about. Obviously, the big issue right now is the continuing resolution, the CR, which will determine whether or not the government stays open. But first, just wanted to dive into a topic that had been circulating between you and Elon Musk, and that is that you had reiterated your support online for Ukraine, which, to remind everybody, is a functioning democracy in their battle against Russia, which is not a democracy. And Elon Musk had come out and called you a traitor for expressing your support for that democracy. Can I have your reaction to that?
Well, he's not a serious guy. I've sort of known him a little bit over a decade. I used to, do some stuff with SpaceX and crew safety, and I used to take him seriously, especially in his role at SpaceX.
Yeah,
his cool role as the CEO and the chief engineer. And I don't know what happened to him. That he suddenly decides it's a good idea to spend $250 million to make sure Donald Trump's the next president. To what end? Right? You always got to be suspicious of a billionaire who's trying to get people elected to office and then shows up in the administration as some special, I don't know what that means, special government employee, and then brings a wrecking ball immediately to the federal government, ruining people's lives, including the lives of veterans. So I go to Ukraine, part of my job. We are our own branch of government, right? I don't work for the president of the United States, and I certainly do not work for Elon Musk. I work for the people of Arizona, and I'm on the Armed Services Committee. I'm on the Intelligence Committee. My job is to get out there in these spots where we've got to make some tough decisions in Congress. The president, he has his decisions to make. I've got my decisions to make. So in that role, I'm there. I'm speaking to the head of intelligence of the Ukrainian military, the people in the Defense Department, government leaders, visiting with veterans in a military hospital.
So, you guys, this is the pre-eviction in Colorado. This is the funniest thing ever. This is the funniest thing ever. So, I got this from Local Productions, and I'll be linking that channel in the description. This one was so delicious when I saw it. I had the biggest smile on my face. I hope you enjoy it. Anyways, let's get into it.
Edibles and stuff, but you give money for people to hate others. You give money for random stupid causes, not something that actually helps someone. Like, I don't know how many times you haters came to me asking for money and I gave you it, knowing that you hated me. But now it's turned, I'm a scam artist. How am I a scam artist? I'm showing you my bills. I'm showing you I'm going under. So if you don't see me, you're gonna know why. You're gonna know why. You're gonna know why. It's because I didn't get the support I needed. So
wait a minute, who is asking her for money? Because I remember she used to drop hundreds in my Canadian Bacon's chat, and apparently in the beauty guru community, she used to drop hundreds in the chat. They were not begging you for your money. You were buying a spotlight. And you were flaunting that shit, Jenny. Like, what do you mean? Who was asking her for money? Oh, G-Man. They were paying some stuff for G-Man, but other than that, like, I don't want.
Everything that's going on in this country right now, especially with regard to this current administration, is the direct result of white women's laziness, cowardice, and incompetence. Or as the French would call you, les incompétents. Bonus points if you get that reference. As white women, you have a direct connect to white men, which means that you have been and you still are in the very rooms where conversations are had, plans are hatched, and decisions are made, and yet you do nothing.
Hello people, how are you doing? How are you doing? For great wherever you are. As you know, these are presented Tech Stories, and I'm hoping you're having a great day or evening wherever you are. Now, there's something that it is important that we need to talk about. Often overlooked is the place of white women in harboring racism in the contemporary society, especially in the United States, amongst the questions that we need to talk about. Now, there's this black lady who talks about how white women have racism, and I think it's important for you to note that this video doesn't promote hate or something. I think it is just a perspective, and from her personality, she is so stern, and I think it's important because for you to get a message to people, one way of making them understand, especially white folks, is to be stern. Now, the video is entirely for educational purposes because I believe everything she says are facts and should be considered, and those are her opinion, and I agree with her and I support everything that she says, in as much as she sounds stern. Now, we need to look at the role of white women in harboring racism. Sometimes when a white woman comes out and says that they really resonate with black women, it leaves question, because you did the opposite of what you said you can do if you really mean that. And majority of things, benefits that people go through, affirmative action that black women and are fought for, the benefit, people benefit from all these are white women. So they play a significant role in making this happen. Now, when we talk about slavery, while traditional slavery was abolished, its legacy continues in different forms, often upheld by systems that benefit white women indirectly. From economic exploitation to cultural appropriation, white women, whether consciously or unconsciously, participate in systems that mirror aspects of historical slavery. Many white women today hold positions of power in corporate America, politics, and education, yet often remain silent or complicit in labor exploitation, racial inequality, and policies that disproportionately harm black people. I want us to watch this video. It is by this black woman. She is called, it's important for me to note how she's called because she shares an important message. Her TikTok name is called Beach Happens. You can go and check that out. I don't know why she decided to call herself that way, but I think it speaks a lot because she is a no-nonsense lady. Now let us watch this video. I'll be back and we'll have a discussion about it.
Slavery has been abolished and Jim Crow is no longer in play. The psyche of white supremacy, white privilege, and entitlement still remains. And to this day, white women, regardless of political affiliation, and albeit consciously or subconsciously, still think of black women as being your indentured servants, that we must be in service to you at all times, and your access to us must always be unfettered. And this election and your reaction to black women as a result of it was a prime example. When black women collectively said, we are tired, we are done, and to just simply leave us alone, Instead of listening to Black women, respecting us and the boundary we set forth, you took our immediate divestment and disengagement from you as downright disrespect. How dare Black women withdraw their labor, support, and protection of us? How dare Black women deny us access to them? White women are the creators of exclusion, and yet you hate exclusivity the moment it's directed towards you. The moment Black women disengaged from your content, you came to the real-time realization that the majority of your platforms were built off the backs of Black women, just like everything else you have. And because the 15th was right around the corner, you turned that panic into pandering, hence the blue bracelets. When Black women immediately clocked your performative bullshit and told you collectively to fuck off, the mask, as always, immediately dropped. Whenever white women extend kindness to us, even in the smallest of ways, there's an immediate and silent demand for gratitude. And when not received, you feel immediately slighted. You go from 0 to Miss Millie real fucking quick. You went from pandering for our engagement to condescendingly demanding that we acknowledge your individual vote for Kamala Harris rather than your collective vote to uphold white supremacy and protect your white privilege. Now you're so desperate for our engagement that you've resorted to rage baiting, which has also fallen on deaf ears. White women are all about perception, because in your mind, if you look the part, you are the part without having to actually do the work. And because you're all about perception, your greatest fear is exposure, which is why you view Black women as your greatest threat, because we know exactly who you are at your core and everything evil that you're capable of. Because for centuries, we've witnessed and experienced it firsthand. The majority of you have no interest in being an ally to Black women. You just need to be perceived as one, because it allows you to feel morally superior while simultaneously disguising your deeply rooted insecurities and your jealousy of Black women. For the first
Switch to our most affordable unlimited phone plan and get 2 lines for just $80 per month with Simply Unlimited from Google Fi Wireless. Stay connected with all the essentials, like unlimited data, calls, and texts, plus 5 gigabytes of high-speed hotspot tethering per month for each line, and full connectivity for select smartwatches. Try Simply Unlimited from Google Fi Wireless.
First time ever, you are being judged, and rightfully so, based solely on the color of your skin and not the content of your character, which has always been questionable at best. It's all fun and MLK quotes until you're on the receiving end of one. As far as the trickle-down patriarchy is concerned, your only perk is your white privilege. And you are so desperate to hang on to it that you stay silent. And instead, you choose to ride the coattails of the very white men that's taking away your rights and are actively working to take away your freedom. And yet and still, you manage to possess the fucking caucasity to walk around like you Mary fucking Magdalene. Meanwhile, you just gave white men the keys to the very kingdom that they've been building this whole time in front of your face. White women are not rooted in reality nor realness. You're rooted in perception, which aptly explains why you're so selfish, self-centered, and self-serving. And it is because you are rooted in perception that you don't like confrontation and you don't like being called out. Because upon doing so, the fallacy that you've created for yourself is immediately destroyed. And so your immediate knee-jerk reaction is to pull out the white women tears or the unity card, or sometimes it's a combination of both. You seem to be under this impression that this is a time for Black women and white women to stand together as one and unite. So my question to you is, as it pertains to said unity, which Black women would you like to unite with? Is it the Black women such as myself that you're so quick to call loud, aggressive, and ghetto whenever we assert ourselves with you? Or we say or do something that you don't like or understand, even though it wasn't meant for you in the first fucking place? Is it the Black women that you call welfare queens, knowing full well that the largest recipients of government assistance are white? Is it the Black women that you report to HR because we don't say good morning to you? Or smile on command to appease you? Or tell you what we do on our weekends off because that's our personal fucking business and you're not entitled to that information? Is it the black women that work in retail and customer service that you not only berate, but falsely report to management and corporate because you don't get the refund, discount, or level of service you demanded, oftentimes resulting in us losing our livelihoods? Is it the black women, the overqualified black women in corporate America that you consistently lie on, sabotage, and steal promotions from? Because you know your mediocrity would not get you the position otherwise? Is it the same black women that you treat condescendingly the moment you don't get the immediate praise and gratitude you seem to think you're entitled to? Is it the black women whose style and aesthetic you carbon copy only to repackage and rebrand it as something you invented? Is it the black women whose content and creativity you steal verbatim and profit millions of dollars off of it? All the while refusing to both credit and compensate the very black women you stole from. Are those the black women that you would like to unite and stand as one with you? The 47% of white women that voted for Kamala Harris, bring your ass, because you on the fucking docket today. And because I already know how you bitches operate, let's get some church announcements out the way. 1, when faced with uncomfortable truths, a true ally will accept the information rather than react to it. 2, if it don't apply, let it the fuck fly. In other words, don't bring your sensitive Susie asses in my fucking comments telling me how your best friend is black and giving me a laundry list of things you've done to help the black community. This is me preemptively telling you I don't give a fuck. 3rd, as far as my content is concerned, the feelings of white people, particularly white women, would never be centered nor considered. So if you're white and you follow me and what I'm about to say offends you, there's no need to announce your disappointment nor your departure. You can simply get the fuck out. Now let's get down to business. 47% are particularly the ones that go above and beyond to tell black people, but black women in particular, that you're a part of the 47%. It's not that you do it because of your love, support, and solidarity of black women. It's about your image. Because you need to be on record as being part of the 47%. So you're not perceived to be a part of the 53% because it's MAGA. Because for whatever reason, you seem to think that you're better white women than they are. And newsflash, you fucking aren't. Now, while you may not subscribe to and or believe in their racist beliefs and ideologies, as white women on a daily basis, you still benefit and profit from said racist beliefs and ideologies, none the fucking less. Another thing is that it's not lost, and it's not lost on me, and it's definitely not lost on white women. No generation of white people, especially white women, have ended white supremacy. Now, the only thing to do to end white supremacy in this country is to dismantle it and relinquish your white privilege. 2 things that are a bridge too far for you bitches, especially the last, which is why you'll change the name of a school, you'll change the name of a sports team, you'll take down statues, you'll volunteer in the very neighborhoods that you're gentrifying and pushing my people out of just to assuage your fucking white guilt. You will do everything but give up that white privilege. White people are inherently mediocre. You motherfuckers have to work not to be. And that's a topic for another time, but trust and believe I will be circling the fuck back. And it is because of your white mediocrity, which is why you require so much of black women that you'll never require of yourself, because you bitches can't deliver. White women are the only people on the face of this fucking earth that will betray you and then demand that you make them feel better about doing it. You don't have to tell me I'm wrong, because I already know I'm fucking right. Because you do it all the time. And it's because of your white mediocrity that you don't mind being supported by black women. You want to be supported and defended by black women, but you don't want to be led by black women. Because in order for you to be led by black women, you have to, 1, acknowledge your shortcomings, and 2, forego being the center of fucking attention. And considering the fact that you bitches are born with main character syndrome, that's a fucking habit you hoes can't fucking kick. But what really bothers me is you white bitches that are all about, where's Kamala? I mean, we need her. She should be working. So you want a black woman to do a job that you didn't elect her for. Because see, what you want is you want your individual vote counted, but you don't want the collective one to be counted. And it's the collective vote that makes the fucking decision. And as a collective, you once again voted for your whiteness. Because one thing about you white women, you talk the fucking talk. But when it's time to walk the walk, you walk your ass right on over there to whites only. And this election is no different. And you don't want your ashy and crusty ass heels to be held to the fucking fire about that shit. You want to act like it didn't exist, like it didn't fucking happen. And what pisses me off is that when Hillary Clinton lost, you bitches put on a pink pussy hat, you did your little fucking march, you went to Starbucks and you called it a fucking day. You let that white lady lose in peace. You let her go take a fucking break, go out on the lecture circuit, make her motherfucking money, and go mind her fucking business. But the black woman, you want her to do the job you didn't fucking hire her to do. You should have thought about that shit when you was voting for the trickle-down patriarchy. Because you bitches gonna learn that the patriarchy was brought up, was designed by white men for the sole benefit of white men. They view you as still being their property, just like you still view black women as being fucking yours, and we're not. Kamala Harris don't owe you shit. Black women don't owe you shit. But you bitches owe us everything. And when I say everything, I'm talking everything. Because not only have we protected you, but we fucking raised you. And in some cases, your entire fucking lineage. You was sucking on our fucking ancestors' tit because your fucking mothers couldn't be bothered enough to do it themselves. They went from wanting to be on the fucking porch drinking iced tea to just being drunk and popping pills because they fucking hate their lives. Black women raised you. Black women saved you. But that shit is done. You bitches been running an open tab since 1619, and you long bad bitches, it's time to settle the fuck up. Kamala Harris owes you nothing. You should have thought about what you needed when you was in that fucking voting booth. You made your fucking choice as a collective, and it was to uphold white supremacy and keep your fucking white privilege. Fucking own up to it. And just as a reminder, this is my platform. I say what the fuck I mean, and I mean what the fuck I say. Case closed and court fucking adjourned. You should remember that before you step your ass into my fucking comment section. Have the fucking day you deserve. White women, aka the 47%, bring that ass on back because you're still on the fucking docket. We going for round 3 today. Now to you saltine Sallies that got all in your fucking fifis about what I said, just so you know, 95% of your comments went directly to the filter section. So not only will I not read them, nobody else will either. So your long drawn out, I want to speak to the manager ass dissertations were all for naught. Now when you were watching my video, that feeling that you had, that was your internalized racism coming to the surface. And that's the reason why you couldn't receive my message, was because you couldn't get past my delivery. Because you can't fucking fathom the fact that I, a black woman in 25, would talk to white women that way. Not only did I talk to you bitches that way, but I did it live and in living fucking color, just like I'm doing it right now. I simultaneously put you bitches on both notice and display in front of the entire fucking world, and you pissed about it, as I knew you would be. Because not only are you motherfuckers mediocre, you're fucking predictable, as always. Now, just so you get a better understanding of what type of time I'm on November 6th, I didn't have to put my cape in the closet because I never owned one to begin with. I came out the womb pissing white women off. I'm not fucking new to this. I'm true to it. And until the day I fucking rest, I would drink white women tears like tequila shots in this spring break in Mexico, bitch. I'm talking unlimited and all fucking inclusive. For all the liberalism and feminism you like to brag about being a part of, you still carry the mentality that black women must always stay in their proverbial place. And that's to always be in and of service to you. And while you may be Miss Millie, bitch, I'm not Sophia. The conversations about race and oppression, specifically conversations that are being led by black people, I need you to resist the fucking envelopian urge to go to your default position, which is passive aggressive gaslighting. And I'll give you an example. This is so hateful. You're being so racist. I don't have to justify my vote. I'm a white woman. I don't see color. I voted for Kamala Harris. I'm a white woman, and I am entitled to sit on my non-existent ass and not do anything at all. And I will not be generalized nor chastised because of it. This is exactly why we can't get things done in this country. We can't move on. This is not the time for divisiveness. This is the time for unity. With all due disrespect, fuck you and the dick you shot out of. You bitches always want to be unified, after the fucking fact. The Day of Unity was November 5th, 2024. Black women showed up and showed out as we always do. And white women, you oversold and underdelivered as you always do. That white mediocrity is a motherfucker. You bitches ain't never beaten them allegations. We did what needed to be done. The only person qualified to talk to me about unity is fucking Queen Latifah. The only time you seek support from black women is when you don't get your way with white men. And to those that are actually interested in doing the work, I need you to understand that no matter how genuine your questions may be, the onus of explaining racism and oppression is never on the oppressed. We didn't create the system, and it's not our place to dismantle it. It's yours. Now, if you're really about that life and you really want to make some changes, I need to start seeing more white on white crime on my timeline. If a musty MAGA bitch say some racist out of pocket shit, Bobby Boucher that bitch immediately, post motherfucking haste. If you chilling at a bar and a big Duck Dynasty looking motherfucker says the N-word, whether it be the A or the hard ER, you better Rocky Balboa that motherfucker like he fought that Russian. It's time to make ass whooping great again. In the words of the late great Nate Dogg, it's really quite easy to get fucked up. All you gotta do is step on up. Start knocking your fellow whites the fuck out. White women are the creators of exclusivity and by extension, division. For centuries, up until
Maggie wants more without spending more. So she got Blink Outdoor 4 cameras with up to 2 years of powerful battery life.
Thank you so much.
With more convenience and more peace of mind. Blink and get more.
Till present day, white women continue to orchestrate the plot and then immediately pretend to not understand the plight. You are not the victims you're desperate to be. You're the perpetrators. This case is not closed, but court is adjourned. Have the fucking day you deserve.
Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, I'm having something to say about black women, and I think this is not black women but white women, which is often overlooked. But I think it's important because they play a key part in still perpetuating racism, and they have an upper hand because even the legal systems hears them so much as compared to any other person. Now, one major way white women contribute to modern forms of slavery is through economic exploitation, particularly in domestic and low-wage labor. Many black and immigrant women work as maids, nannies, or caregivers for white families, often underpaid and overworked with little legal protection. This mirrors historical dynamics, where enslaved black women were forced into domestic servitude. Even in professional spaces, white women benefit from affirmative action policies originally meant to uplift black people, yet often fail to advocate for black women's inclusion in leadership positions. Is it true or is it lie? Let me know, because for the longest time I know black people, black women fought for the affirmative action. But if you have a look, who does these services benefit so much? It is white women, even as compared to black people. And I think even if we look at the list or the hierarchy of who these things really benefit, you'll find that black people are on the lower ladder. The affirmative action doesn't even, benefit black people. Another way white women uphold slavery's legacy is through their role in criminal justice system. You know very well that historically, white women's false accusation led to the lynching and imprisonment of countless black men. And this pattern continues today through racial profiling and biased policing. White women in positions of power, such as judges, prosecutors, and politicians, rarely challenges the mass incarceration, modern form of slavery, where black men and women are exploited for cheap labor in prisons. Many also support policies that uphold systemic racism while distancing themselves from responsibility. I would like to say this. It saddens me that a lot of black men have innocently gone to jail because of false accusation. And you know that during the legal system, if you have a case with a white woman, just know that automatically she's going to be winning that case against you. Even if they falsely accused you, even if they telling the truth, you can never win unless you have a solid evidence of which it's subject to distortion, which also can be used against you. So you can mirror, you can see where all these dynamics come into play. And I think we need to understand and take this keenly, because for the longest time they have been the harbor of trying to push all this. But I'm not saying that it is all white people or white women. There are few who still push for all this. So I think it's important for us to understand the dynamics that comes with this. I like to talk about cultural appropriation. Cultural appropriation is another way how white women continue to profit from black labor and creativity without proper acknowledgement. From the fashion industry stealing black hairstyles to influence monetizing black culture on social media, white women frequently capitalize on aesthetics and labor of black people while offering little return. This is similar to how enslaved black people created cultural innovations that were later exploited by white societies without compensation. The role of these people is to whitewash. The role of these people is to take. The role of these white people is to deny all the achievements that black people have ever done in the history of human being. There is a lot of more history that are yet to be identified, and I'm thankful that this is coming out there, that people are getting to know the truth. There are a lot of history, black history, important history, hidden history, forbidden history that has been whitewashed, that has been taken away from black folks. And I'm glad that with time, this is being exposed. And I'm glad that everyone is getting to see and everyone is getting to know the truth, right? Because tell me why. There's so many things that were discovered by black people, they were taken. If you're trying to see something that was discovered by a white person, you'll find that long way before that, a black person had an idea. In one way or another, they got ways of denying them all this and took credit from the original person who came up with the creativity. That's how it's crazy. So I hope that these messages that I'm always trying to share with you, I hope that they make sense to you. I hope that you get to see the perspective or the direction that I'm heading to with this narrative. Because you need to look at these things critically. For the longest time, in the beauty and fashion industry, they have taken these, especially white women, and from music, fashion, entertainment, they have managed to get away with this. Now, I like to talk about something. Ultimately, white women's complicity in maintaining modern slavery systems, from a combination of privilege, historical conditioning, and reluctance to challenge structures that benefit them. While some actively fight for racial justice, it is true, we agree, not all women are bad. While some are fighting for racial justice, many remain silent or performative in their activism, failing to challenge the deeper systems of exploitation. True progress requires white women to acknowledge their role in these structures and actively work to dismantle them, rather than benefiting from the oppression while claiming solidarity. I think that was my take on this video, because there's a lot happening that I feel like we need to have a discussion about. It can never be enough, but I hope the little perspective that I share in regards to this goes a long way and makes a person see something differently. As you know, these are presented Jinjok Stories. If you're watching this video for the first time, I'll most definitely ask you to subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the channel, join the membership, and really get to see what I can offer you. If you wish to support me, I have my Cash App account. You can also send me a super thanks. I most definitely appreciate, and I'm also thankful for those who are trying to support me through my Cash App account, through my super thanks account. I'm really grateful for your support. These are presented Jinjok Stories, and I'm hoping to see you in my next video. But until then, peace, love, and harmony.